G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we are running a little bit late today, blokes and Sheilas. You wonderful freedom fighters, and obviously the wonderful freedom lovers. Sips to you all. Ah, all right, it's been one of those weeks, days, but we've got a lot to look at today, so we better get into it before we run out of time. Share screen. G'day, Jason. How are you, mate? Harps, good to see you guys nice and early. Michael, how are you, mate? Butterfly Heart, how are we? So, what better place to start than my wonderful people, and with a bit of Alpo memesies. Good old Alpo, always there to entertain us in some way, shape, or form. All right, we introduced Dex Tax July 2027 by stealth, and Australians don't even know it yet. Sucker. It's Australia's liar party. Yep, they're bloody good at it. You know it's bad when when every mainstream media fucking network is struggling to protect you and cover up your stupidity. It's quite an impressive feat this useless twat has achieved here. We didn't lie, we changed our position. And it's amazing. It's one of those things we've kind of looked at it a few times. It's how many ways can you avoid the word lie? Quite extensive knowledge on seeing. I've seen bullshit artists for quite some time. The old man was a good one. It's not lying, it's just tricking, he would say. I didn't fall, I changed positions. Yep, perfect. Yep, from standing to falling, he changed his positions. Anthony Albanese is a total what. It's, people are getting quite creative with their distaste. As I pointed out for Poor Elbow on one of his posts this week, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. You can barely summon up 400 people to actually give to just click the little heart button on Twitter. You got 1,000 people happily to tell you exactly what they think of you, though. And the people in those comments telling you how much they think of you, getting 500 plus likes. So people are liking how much they hate Elbow more than Elbow getting likes. So yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. We certainly know that what these guys love is more and more taxpayers' money, because that's how socialism works. How much can we take from you and then convince you that it's in your benefit that we take all your hard-earned cash? Yeah, it's one hell of a struggle. And we're going to look at some of the astounding ways in which they expect us to swallow the bullshit they're shoveling these days. Again, some more amazing creativity here. We've all seen See No Evil, Hear No Evil, surely. Great movie. Yep, sums it up pretty well. I built my property portfolio with the help of negative gearing, but now you won't be able to. And it's interesting, the fudging and twisting and turning of information, and telling you how you should make sacrifices for those poor young people, that have been seriously disadvantaged by one shit government after another. A rare picture of Albanese with his hands not in your pocket. Love that one. That was gold. Absolute gold. It is so true. Yeah. But he looks like he's about to sort of, operate. It could be a proctology exam, just in case you were hiding anything, You ever see that Disney cartoon with the Robin Hood, where Robin Hood's a fox and Little John's a big bear? I'm reminded of that scene where, like, was it the Sheriff of Nottingham, picks up the fella with the busted leg, I think it is, shaking every last coin out of his cast. Please be patient. I'm fucking things up as fast as I can. Yep, aren't you doing a bang up job of that one? If there's anyone left in this country who's still stupid enough to vote for Labor, wow, that's one hell of a lobotomy you must have had. PM's cabinet owns hundreds of properties yet escapes tax crackdown. Of course, because there's a set of rules for you and a set of rules for them, because nothing's like making things a nice, fair system, is there? Yeah, comrades, Elbow and Jimbo, building the people's homes for migrants. Young Aussies, enjoy the glorious wait list. That's it. Crushing another generation's dreams, one shoebox at a time. I love it. It really is so true. Tipping point with Elbow, record high migration. Well done. It's another one of those AI images. You can see they never quite get his face quite right. He almost looks, he definitely looks game show hosty there, that's for sure, Sips. I'm inclined to agree, Emmy. Definitely. And I think every day you exist here in this country, if you're not developing a natural hatred for the Labor Party, like I said, how much do they charge you for that lobotomy? 100,000 arrivals in just 1 month. Well done. But hey, it's not immigration that's causing these problems. We'll have a look at that as we go, though. Elbow's massive multi-million-dollar lifestyle is another stunning example of how he understands how the Aussie battler's doing things. The ultimate grifter, 4.3 million clifftop mansion. He's doing it hard. He's doing it hard. He needs another ivory back scratcher, that's for sure. Massive salary, 620. That's nothing compared to how much he spends. I think he's popping close to $1 million, for his expenses, and that's on top of the exorbitant wages he already earns, plus all the extra perks. 160 Prime Minister loading, more than 10 times the average Australian wage. Yep. He knows all about how hard he can do things. Gold-plated pension, lifetime, indexed pensions for life, while you're getting nothing, 250K to 330K per year for life, plus take up to 50% as tax-effective lump sum. Exclusive perks, from Prime Minister luxury package, the former Prime Minister luxury package. I love the way that is put, former PM luxury package. So a private office in your home city. What's he need an office for? He's done for. He's no longer serving us. What does he need an office for? 3 full-time staff on your payroll. For what? You're done. You don't have a job. A car and a driver. Comcare fleet. Let's zoom in here. Free flights across Australia, high-end phones and internet, ongoing security and perks, and diplomatic passport. Yep. Estimated capital gain profit from property deals, 3.4 million. Oh, sorry, we skipped to 6, didn't we? We've got number 4, property millions. His property portfolio is also going to be raking him in money, so he doesn't really need the executive perks and the pension, does he? Income tax and extra perks. Gross rental income, 75,000 per year. Negative gearing tax benefits, $45,000 to $90,000. Estimated capital gain profit from property deals, 3.4 million. Yep. Of course, why would he put these restrictions and things on himself? Sips. Yeah, there is no greater grifter than the Australian Parliament. Because at what point is Liberal or Labor ever going to change this? They're never going to. Oh, we should back off. This is costing millions just to keep has-beens alive. In the lap of luxury. It's not even just keeping them alive. Personally, I don't think they're worthy of a freaking food stamp. But anyway, trust me, liar. Yep. The creativity is really coming out of the Australian public these days. We should be getting some sort of a tax write-off for the amount of hard work we put into hanging shit on this dickhead. Discussion. Do you support the government giving 350 million to Myanmar? Never even heard of it. Why am I giving 370 million to a place I've never friggin' heard of? I mean, might have to quickly look up what the hell that is just to figure it out. All right, let's bring that one in. So, where's our money going? It's to some country, near Bangladesh, by the look of it. Myanmar, officially the Republic Union of Myanmar, and also referred to as Burma. Oh, there you go. There's a name I have heard before. I have heard of Burma. It's another shithole, isn't it? Is a country in Northwest Southeast Asia, and the largest country by mainland Southeast Asian, has a population of 55 million. Oh, well, I can see why they need so much of our money. They don't have their own fucking communist regime. Is socialist program party. So they've got socialism. Surely, what have their people run out of money and now they've come to leech off us? Is that how the socialism works? Socialist Party, no, multi-party system 2 years later. Well, we might have to do a bit of reading to figure out exactly what the full story is there. But hey, look, there's some shitty country I've never friggin' heard of that needs money quick. Roll out the red carpet and give them some friggin' cash. Clearly they're worthy of it more than the actual taxpayers of the country that's forking out for this shit. But we'll see even more of that kind of wastage in moments to come. Let's stop that one and get back to our memesy screen. So how about it? Do you support 370 million to a country you may have just, as I did, figure out where the hell it is? Yep, this is pretty much the choices we have at the moment. We can walk towards freedom, or we can continue down the path of debt, digital ID, censorship, insane immigration. There would need to add an addition there, and lunatic wokery. Of course, it also needed a little bit of an addition there. This is one that Elon himself was posting from Planet of Memes. A country threatens to ban X. X gains popularity. X surges to the #1 news app. Elon chuckles. He felt that that was a rather accurate statement. So this is an interesting one. Let's zoom in a bit. So whoever Sam Mahula is, or why it even come up on my feed, I'm not sure. But anyway, farmer. Gentlemen, I'd like to present the ultimate plant-based protein technology. Investor 1, we're listening. Farmer. It converts inedible plant matter into complete protein. Grass, corn stalks, brewery waste, vegetable peelings, anything cellulose rich that humans can't digest. Investor 2, energy requirements. Farmer. Sunlight. Investor 2, for the plant matter, you mean? Oh, and for the conversion, same sunlight, reused. It's rather efficient, I thought, Investor 3, heating costs for the bioreactor. None, says the farmer. The unit holds 38.5 degrees year around on its own. Very efficient, wouldn't you say? Investor 1, failure rate. Farmer, self-repairing. The unit also replicates once a year at no additional cost. Interesting. Replicates, Investor 3. Farmer produces a smaller version of itself, which becomes a full unit. It's almost like talking to an idiot, isn't it? Investor 2, net carbon. Farmer, neutral. The carbon in goes back into the air that grass pulled it from. Round and round, same atoms, no new ones added. Investor 1, and the waste output. Farmer, 20 tons of soil enriching per unit per year. The waste is also a product. Investor 2, this would obliterate beyond meat. Farmer, it already has. They just don't know it yet. Investor 1, where can we see one? Farmer, there are about 1.5 billion currently deployed, have been for 10,000 years. Silence. Investor 3, it's a cow, isn't it? Farmer, it's a cow. Investor 2, We were promised plant-based. The plant goes in one end. I don't know what else you wanted. Perhaps that which comes out the other end, it's certainly what the leftists would be shoveling as a response to a lot of this. I thought it was quite the clever one myself. Kind of see where it was going. So this was an interesting one I've seen here today that, like, what the hell are they talking about here? Why has Reddit's got nothing for this Henry Nowalk fella and results for George Floyd? So, I did the natural thing and asked the question about who these people are. So it shares screen and back to this one here. And yep, here we go. Police handcuff dying student, 18, after he's stabbed with 20-centimeter knife. You got to be thinking, what the fuck? So this guy's probably bleeding out, and the coppers are handcuffing him. What? Talk about duty of care. Brilliant. I see where the George Floyd connection comes in. The university, this is when we're actually going to have to read the whole thing. A university student fatally stabbed while walking home was handcuffed by police shortly before his death. And you're like, okay, you've got me. How did this come to pass? Henry Nowalk, 18, from Chafford 100, Essex, was killed when heading home from a night out on December 3. Defendant Vikram Digwa, 23, told Southampton Crown Court Nowak was drunk and barged into him as they met at night, prompting a violent altercation. All right, so stage set. We've got a drunken teenager. He's 18. He obviously can't hold his liquor, and he's bumped into this poor defenseless fellow with a name I can barely pronounce, which I've no doubt stuffed up, but we'll find out. Digwa denies murder. Oh, well, that was nice of him, and carrying a knife in public. Automatically, this story is starting to thicken. He's denied murdering him, and he's denied carrying a knife, and claimed that he used a Kia pan after Noah punched him. So what's a Kia pan? We look it up. The Kia pan is a specific type of curved sword. So, yeah, well, obviously he was denied carrying a knife. They're calling it a sword. That Kalsa 6, I think is how you say it. Probably got it wrong. Are required to wear as part of their religious uniform. Starting to think we might need a religious uniform ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, to deal with some of these people, as prescribed by Sikh Code of Conduct. Traditionally, the kirpan was a full-sized talwar of around 76 centimeters. So I see where the sword element comes in. However, British colonial policies and laws introduced in the 19th century, probably somewhere around that, it's long past, or it could be around about that East India period, probably a bit past it, but anyway, reduced the length of the blade, and in the modern day, the kirpan is typically a dagger between 5 to 12 inches. So that's enough information to sort of get a bit of an idea of what we're dealing with here. Used a kirpan, so he denies murder and carrying a knife in public, and claimed that he used a kirpan. That's interesting. After Noah punched him and pulled his hair. Rightio. He told the jury, I thought I had to do something because I was afraid that he was going to stab me with my own kirpan. Rightio. So he was worried that someone was going to stab him with his own knife. Maybe if you weren't carrying a knife. Anyway, previously the court heard that Digwa was carrying a kirpan. Well, we've established that it's a religious knife, and with a 21 centimeter blade, which the prosecution claimed caused 5 stab wounds. So yeah, he was clearly concerned about being stabbed with 5 stab wounds to Mr. Nowak, if that's how you say it, including 2 to the back of his legs, and a fatal wound to the chest. So you got a one back of his legs. It kind of indicates that perhaps old mate was trying to get away when his legs have been hacked at, bringing him down for a couple more to the chest. Just a theory, I guess, I don't know. I wasn't there, but, back of the legs. What did he stab him a couple of times in the middle of the heat of the battle, roll him over and decide, you know what, let's stab him in the back of the legs? Like, how did the back of the legs happen? You know, like, you got to think about these things. Digwa said he had been receiving curried chips from a car in the street when he and Noak encountered one another. BBC News reported, he said, to me, it seemed like he was drunk. He barged into me. I thought he had done it deliberately. Right. Okay. So this guy's got a paranoid sort of nature about him, apparently, or at least he's grasping at straws. Henry Noak then turned around and said to me, you could have moved a little bit more. So, you know, we put it onto the poor victim here. Digwa said the victim used a racially offensive term before adding, do you think you're a bad man? I'm from Essex. You don't know what people from Essex are on. Okay, so now we're trying to imply drug use, I'm guessing. Noak had recorded part of the altercation with footage shown to the jury. Digwa said he went to block the phone and grabbed it from the university student. So you got to wonder why his old mate brought out the phone. Is that part of his self-defense system, perhaps? He added, this is when he punched me. He then pulled my turban. He pulled it off my head. As I'm bent over, he started saying, I'm going to, expletive removed, you up. I'm going to kill you. I felt like he was going to use my Kia pan on me. You know, we've heard that before. You know, well, if you're so worried about somebody using a knife on you, why are you providing said knife? You know, but I guess, you know, religious purposes, of course, you know, like, we have a right to practice religion, don't we? You know, so much so that the British actually intervened and stopped them having larger weapons at some point. So interesting. Digwa said he felt Mr. Noak was threatening him and saying to him, you think you're a bad boy? We'll get to this point. I'm thinking in my mind he's recording me, and this has just escalated. During these months there have been a lot of attacks on Six, and a lot of them have been videoed as well by their attackers, you know. So we're playing the poor migrant card. The defendant said he did not mean to stab Noak 5 times, apparently, or twice in the back of the legs as well as the chest, and cried when he knew when the news broke of his death. I'm sorry that it happened. The court previously heard police had handcuffed Noak after the stabbing. You know, and some people might have given up by now, but no, I'm like, there's got to be more to this. But you know, they were also told the University of Southampton first-year student was walking back to his accommodation from a night out after drinking to a level below the drink drive limit. So I'm sorry, but 0.05, as I believe is the drink drive limit in most places, you know, it is here. You're barely feeling anything. I don't even know how that is a limit for driving, because truth to me, it's 0.05. I'm like, really? That's the cutoff point? I don't even feel anything yet. Digwa at St. Denis Road, Southampton, said he did not tell people he had stabbed Noak because he was scared. His mother, I'm going to say Kieran Kaur, I don't know, 53, is also on trial and denies assisting an offender by removing a weapon from the murder scene. The plot thickens right at the end, isn't it? The defendants deny the charges and trial continues, and the trial continues twice, you know, just to make sure you got the point. So, yeah, I thought that was an interesting little tale to share. Sorry, wrong one. Let's get back to our memesies then, shall we? Yeah, I hit the wrong button again. A few Alpoos. It's interesting. When I seen the kid's name, I actually, you know, it says Henry Noak. I thought it was Henry Hawk. Just the first thing that pops into my head, but yeah. Anyway, advanced. 2 in 1, 3 Australians say immigration is too high. 1 in 2 say it is much too high. Love it. Brilliant. Yeah, and it's hard to disagree. Even the migrants are agreeing with us now, Sips. You know, and it's not just the ones that have actually come here permanently either, or at least, you know, there's a whole bunch of attempting. Pork has no place in America. Our faith, our choice. Please respect that. Fucking man, we should make a part of our religion that they have to kiss my ass. You know, well, I honestly believe we may have to create our own religion to solve some of these problems. ALP top donors. 40 million Labor Holdings, 3.3 Mining and Energy Union. How well do you think the greeny fucking agenda is going to work out for leftists when 3.3 million funding your leftist campaigns is mining? Oh, I guess that's why we need all these, new minerals for fucking renewables. So renewable, the mining industry is rubbing its grubby little hands together. Pratt Holdings also seems to be related to perhaps some sort of, moving of produce. Could be mining even. Could be grain. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what that picture looks like. I'm not a farmer. 1.4 million. A progressive business. You'd shudder to think what they mean by progressive business. Progressive, I used to think was like complex heavy metal, Dream Theater, that kind of stuff. That's progressive to me, but something that's intelligent and clever and requires more brain power than most people have. But no, progressive by leftist standards usually means regressive in my mind. So, it's probably, programs to assist, foreigners who have AIDS come into our country or something. Unions, 1.2 million United Workers Unions. Yep. And how much of the money was funneled already into them from, government spendings and holdings in the first place? So anyway, got to love these kind of, newspaper articles. I think I've seen it in a few reports during the week. I meant to grab a few more, but I never got around to it. We got enough content anyway, but you get the idea that every friggin' newspaper is basically putting out these kinds of headlines at the moment. Labor, you are cooked. The question isn't when, isn't if, it's when. Like the country has turned. When the mainstream media are all systematically gone for you, you're done for. Real progress. For the first time in a decade, new homes are being built. Wow, the graph speaks for itself. These people are masters of statistical manipulation, and they're struggling to come up with something on this one. So, wow, it's pathetic. Bringing in more people, doing less actual work. It's astounding, like the absolute bullshit that they spend. In Australia, what percentage own shares under 35? So this is an interesting one because they keep trying to say to us that negative gearing is only for, the elder generation. We're trying to help the younger people get ahead, but approximately 39% of Australians aged between 25 and 34 own shares outside of their superannuation. So we're not talking about that forced savings plan that is, again, share-based. While the figure is roughly 27% for those aged 18 to 24. So even from 18 to 24, people are getting in on this share thing because at the end of the day, we have been so sucked dry that if you haven't figured out how to do things like shares and investments, you're fucked. You've got no hope. So you've got to have your job, possibly a second job, and then you've got to have an investment portfolio on the side just to survive in Australia at the moment. And young people are aware of this, but obviously so is the Labor Party. Probably find in the last several years during COVID, a lot of people, much like myself, possibly started doing a lot more research into how to make money while you're being in lockdown, and a lot of people have figured out, some basic things like investments in various things. As a result, a lot more investing is being done. This good old socialist government sees an opportunity to make more money for themselves because they're living off the public purse. So don't tell me that, they're doing this for the young, because the intelligent young are now being punished, as always. And that's how socialism works, isn't it? The lazy bum who's too stupid, ignorant, or selfish, or lazy, or whatever, wants to sit around and do fuck all, wants to sit there and whine about those who've actually got their shit together, I get it. When we were constantly told the world was going to end as a teenager, it's kind of hard to have a bleak, a happy outlook. Everything looks bleak. We're going to die from climate change. We're going to die from 1999 prophecies of doom, 2012, Y2K, all the other wonderful things that we've survived, the myriads of fucking diseases and death and destruction, the wars, all the crap that these globalist filth bags have continuously pushed upon people, and I must say myself as a young fellow, what is the fucking point? You look at the cost of the properties and all this. What hope have you got? That was back in before we hit to the 2000 period. It's even worse now. I mean, how can anybody look into the crystal ball of their future and feel there's hope? You know, all you can see is, well, the only certainty I see is death. It's like, wow. And especially when you've got a criminal socialist government running amok. So it's one of the many lies we've uncovered there. Where are you going? Who's going to work for our benefit? Yep, who's going to work for their benefits? Because, you know, anybody with a buck is leaving the country. You can't afford to stay here if you've got money. Because you won't have it for long. The socialists demand that they need another, you know, ivory back scratcher, a new toilet seat for their offices. The winners of this election, obviously, you know, the guys with knives running around stabbing people, are the losers of this election. Yep, everybody who worked hard to build a wonderful nation. You know, housing prices shooting up, immigration. No, I can't see any problems. Yeah, that's these people for sure. We've got a few more graphs of that nature. Price changes. This is obviously US consumer goods and services, but it's interesting because, you know, wherever America farts, these things are going to hit us too. It also comes to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's spelled the Australian way. So anyway, more expensive. Hospital services are through the roof. You know, college tuition and fees, college textbooks are up, child care, nursery school, medical care services, average hourly wage is more expensive, you know, as in you're not getting more. It's, you know, a downside. Housing, food and beverages. What is working well? You know, obviously new cars, because that works well for people who've got no money. Household furnishings operations. Of course, we haven't even got a house. You know, we can't afford them. So why would we need those? Clothing. Well, at least we're not running around naked. Cell phone services. Important to make sure you've got your cell phone contact out there to let everybody know how fucking broke you are. Computer software. Helpful if you've got no computer because you can't afford it. Toys. Well, at least the kiddies can be happy in poverty, you know, while they're playing in the dirt and unable to live in a house. And TVs, yep, going to need that when we got no friggin' house. Well done. Going to need that real well. So you can see we've got a bit of a problem here over the last 25 years because you find the same sorts of things are happening here in Australia. The astonishing rise of Claire O'Neill's net worth. So here's one of the ones who's jumping up and down about how we're saving it for the young people. Her net worth increased to under 1 million to over 20 million while living on the public purse. Yes, the Australian Labor Party know one thing about socialism. It's a wonderful way to make yourself rich while pretending to give a shit about the other people. You know, their total gross 2,500%. Straight. I wish, you know, I could have a job like that. Maybe not. I'm not a very good liar, I guess. You know, I have this really bad habit of telling people exactly what I think, you know, and I don't think it's very popular in the Labor Party. Anyway, real estate portfolio, 4.2 million luxury apartment, 8.5 million commercial building, and a 2.5 million beachfront home in Lawn. Oh, but I thought the ocean was rising, you know? Like, aren't you worried your beachfront home's going to get washed away by climate change, Claire? You fucking lying scumbag. Anyway, 26. I like this one. This is the kind of shit that you get when you look at Left Hard World, right? It's really simple and easy to understand in Left Hard World. 26 years before and after capital gains tax discount. And of course, they're pointing to the one point here which says Howard introduced the capital gains tax discount, you know? And of course, that's what's caused dwelling prices, which is really interesting because a lot of ups and downs and things, almost as if there's something else perhaps controlling it other than just household disposable income, which I don't know how this graph has gone up as household disposable income per capita. I guess when you factor in the fact that the value of money is degrading, we should probably change the curve of this because the value of money is less. There may be more disposable income per dollar, but the dollar value is worth a lot less. So I would call this a bit of tomfoolery or trickery. And of course, I've seen this posted by some left-hearted fuckwit who seems to think they know something because, oh, look, I looked at two things. So I go into the comments because that's where all the humor really resides, particularly on X. And old mate gets schooled pretty hard. Another fella goes, here, I fixed it for you. and adds in all the data points he missed. RBA cash rate, for instance, seems to have had a rather interesting trend towards here, and actually kind of spikes with certain elements as well. So RBA cash rate might be an influential component here. Net migration into Australia is something that seems to be a factor, because wow, that information wasn't there, of course, because we're talking about, I think the post even mentions how migration is clearly not a factor. Well, it seems that the migration seems to go along quite well with the dwelling prices, actually closer to than any other factor. Isn't that interesting? But it's not migrants, says the left-hearted fuckwits. Gotta love it. Gotta love left-hard logic. If we ignore all the things that are inconvenience and fuck up the facts that I'm trying to put, actually, no, not fuck up the facts, actually, we can't look at the facts, because that would fucking ruin my fantasy, is the real issue here. That's how leftists work. Block out all the things. Blinders on. No, don't want to see reality. Focus on the fantasy. So, of course, we've seen a lot of Muslims complaining about how they're hard done by and they're peaceful and all that. But, it's kind of hard to go look at it as a peaceful, we're just here to be your neighbors, when Islam will dominate the world. Jihad to defend the Muslims from what? I mean, yep. I rise against the Crusaders. So they talk about clinging to history. The Crusades were 1,000 years ago, weren't they? I mean, give or take a couple hundred years. At the very least, let's say it was 800 years ago to be nice. But still, I mean, talk about holding on to the past. These people clearly are very good at holding a grudge. Sips. I mean, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but we struggled to figure out how we even got into Australia. Like my father, all he knew was the grandparents that he'd seen. That was the extent of his family tree. He's too busy surviving to worry about, whether one of his grandfathers was in the Crusades or not. Personally, I wouldn't have a fucking clue if I had a relative involved in the Crusades. I wasn't even sure if we had some involved in World War One. My God, I'm sorry, some of us are too busy putting food on the plate to worry about our bloodlines. We're not like the ultra rich here who have a huge mansion with family portraits dating back several hundred years down the fucking main hallway. Come on, how can you be held accountable for the Crusaders? I don't think I could even be held accountable for what may have happened to Indigenous people, because as far as I know, no family member of mine has caused any harm to them either. But, again, I'm supposed to be feeling bad about that, and apparently the Crusades, and I don't know. What else am I supposed to feel bad about that I had no idea about and wouldn't have any, and nobody could possibly bring up any factual information to prove? But anyway. At current rates, it would take 189 years to mine enough copper to replace fossil fuels without renewables. Oh, duh. I pointed that out years ago. I'm glad at least Advance is finally catching up onto that one. That's old news as far as I'm concerned. In fact, but it was funny. I find myself having to explain it to people all the fucking time. We do not have enough natural resources to move to renewables as it is. And it's truth. I think we would actually run out of resources after we've mined everything that we know of, plus what we already have, and still have not achieved this unrealistic goal. So Jared Rennick here. While the rest of the nation gets hit with higher capital gains tax, there's a special carve out for foreign investors in renewable energy. Of course, we've got to look after foreign investors. That's a high priority for the Australian taxpayer. Wouldn't you agree? They get to keep 50% CGT discount at the cost of $242 million to the taxpayer. That's why we need capital gains. Got nothing to do with saving the young. But we'll look at all the other things as well. One of the key measures includes the introduction of a time-limited 50% capital gains tax discount for foreign investors disposing of eligible renewable energy assets or qualify indirect interests. Isn't that interesting? you and I, the Australian people, have to pay extra if we make a capital gains sort of stuff, but foreigners don't. Lovely. Good to see we got our priorities straight here. Yeah, this change is reliant on the passing of the government's proposed Treasury Laws Amendment, Foreign Resident CGT Concessions for Renewable Energies Bill. I can't even believe there's a fucking bill for that. That is insane. But anyway, if this legislation is passed, the concession would apply from the date of commencement of the relevant act till 30th of June 2030. The concession is limited in its application to foreign companies and trustees. So fuck you, Australians, if you want to try and save the planet with these alleged renewables that are strip mining the planet. Importantly, the new regime would capture development stage projects where support by evidence. Well, I'm glad we've got evidence of the rort and apply look-through treatment for interposed entities while maintaining existing anti-avoidance rules. Oh, I'm glad we've got some sort of scenario where anti-avoidance, so that what we wouldn't want them to, try to avoid and actually pay tax. Is that where we're going? I doubt it. Of the Income Tax Assessment Act. The measure is explicitly framed as a capital attraction tool. Oh, that's a capital attraction tool. What, like, negatively gearing properties so that there's stuff for the lazy people who don't want to work out how to buy a house themselves. The measure is explicitly framed as capital attraction tool, albeit the estimated 425 million revenue cost already provisioned. So rather than actually play this, because, every time you play a Joe Rogan clip, somebody jumps up and down, probably Spotify, because, they've got their hooks in that one. This MPH Nicholas fella, Joe Rogan, the tick thing is nuts. Tim Burchett, because of Bill Gates. Rogan, farmers and ranchers are finding boxes of ticks on their property. I have a good friend who got bit by the Lone Star tick and has that alpha gal problem. It makes your body allergic to red meat. Yeah, nothing sus here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, one might consider this an actual threat to national security, national sovereignty. Like, shouldn't there be some sort of protections for people from this kind of disgusting behavior, dropping boxes of bugs that make you allergic to red meat? Burchett. And who has got genetically made meat now? Oh, Rogan. Bill Gates. Burchett. Bill Gates. Yep. Good old Bill himself. Always ready to plant a virus to sell the antivirus. He's such a wonderful human being. The problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. You're going to hear that a bit today, I have a feeling. Oi, Keir Starmer, when good old Tommy Robinson, isn't he doing good work? Attorney General locked me away for 18 months for making a documentary, and you took me to... I'm going to start again. Keir Starmer, when you had your Attorney General lock me away for 18 months for making a documentary and you took me to maximum security facilities, placing me in solitary for 7 months, did you ever envision that just 12 months after my release, I'd be humiliating you on the world stage like this? Death, prison, or glory, we will never stop fighting for Britain. And there he is standing around a cohort of, fellow citizens of the UK, and I believe we got a bit of a video to go along with this one. Let's have a look here. Here he is. Let's have a look at old mate, shall we?
Become a prime minister tomorrow, what would you change?
I'll start from the beginning.
What would happen if you become a prime minister tomorrow? What would you change?
I would stop Islam. I'd end foreign funding in this country. All the migrants would be taken out of the hotels and sent back tomorrow by the military. I would reverse, I would have remigration. It's time for many Muslims to leave this country if they're not going to integrate or assimilate. It's time to go home. You've got your homes to go to. This is our home. We've got nowhere to go to. We're not allowing it to change any longer. You've seen today, people are fed up, man. People are fed up.
Fed up. National sovereignty, safety and security.
Yeah, we're fed up.
And national identity.
That's an interesting point, especially seems like, I'm not saying all Aboriginal people. I've got some wonderful Aboriginal friends who, are more than happy to have, peaceful coexistence and whatnot. But there are, unfortunately, some out there that are saying, all us colonials should pack up and fuck off. Well, I'd like to know that there's a place for us if we have to do that. And so thank God for Tommy Robinson making sure that we have the UK to return to should we be kicked out, by the, ones who are not so accepting of us. It's one way of looking at it. Wouldn't you agree? So you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. This is how our world could change by 2030. Yep, you'll own nothing and be happy. It's the World Economic Forum themselves. By all means, go and have a look it up for yourself. This is based on the input of members of the World Economics Forum's Global Future Councils. I mean, you remember voting for those guys, right? Those people that you never voted for somehow got elected to a position to tell you how you'll own nothing and be happy. I feel warm and fuzzy about it, don't you? He who spares the wolf sacrifices the sheep. Very interesting. I didn't actually check to see if this guy actually said it, but I agree with the sentiments pretty well. It's hard to disagree with that, and I think it doesn't matter anyway. So let's keep moving, shall we? Let's how are we going? Comments. We've got a couple of started comments. Let's have a quick look. Jason, are you going to see the Mandalorian movie? Oh, look, I'll check it out at one point. I won't be paying exorbitant prices to go down to a cinema. Quite simply, I can't afford to go to a cinema. Elbow needs a new ivory back scratcher, and the socialists need to import some more of their friends. So, obviously, none of us can afford to do things like that anymore. At least I can't. If you put Elbow in a hoodie, he looks like B-grade Palpatine. Palpatine. I like that. Well done, Ray from Down Under. Good one. And don't say we don't call attention to your comments, ladies and gentlemen. If they're good enough, and my family out there who's running the comments, thank you, wonderful family. Sips to you. If they see that you've put the effort in to do something clever and intelligent, then it will be called to my attention eventually. Especially since I'm trying to roll through this as quick as I can. Holy shit, 50 minutes already. By God, time flies when you're having fun. So anyway, we should probably start here. Let's go and have a look. We may have to cut some shit short today. Why is Anthony Albanese so fucking shit? I'm not sure how I found this. I was looking for something and I ended up finding this. And, it comes from a wonderful place called Red Flag. Now, for those of us who, have hung around, let's say, so maybe nefarious people, maybe not so, a little bit untoward, perhaps. The term red flag is usually something that is calling attention to yourself, and it's bad. You don't want to be wearing a red flag and calling attention to yourself while you're engaged in nefarious elements. But anyway, obviously, it's really communism. Good old red flag, Rothschilds. Why is Anthony Albanese so fucking shit? It's not like anyone thought he'd be that good, but Anthony Albanese has turned out to be a really, really crap PM. It's pretty bad when you're a communist and even the communist rag is ragging on you. And this is 31st of August 2024, so this is close to 2 years ago. It's not like anyone thought he'd be that good. The 2022 election was mostly about driving a stake through Scott Morrison's heart. That Anthony Albanese was the chosen one. I like the fact that they said the chosen one, because I've been taking the piss out of the chosen one concept as well, but it's all right. I'm not the only one who sees this. To fulfill this prophecy, we're getting real biblical here. We're definitely breaking out the red flag. Did not mean he inspired enthusiasm. After all, the promise of his leadership of Labor was about correcting the dangerous radicalism of the notorious extremist Bill Shorten. It's hard to be enthusiastic about a guy who looks at Bill Shorten and thinks this guy's vision is too bold. Okay, rightio. So obviously it seems the writer actually was in support of the extremist values, perhaps. Albanese had one big advantage, Scott Morrison's unpopularity. I think that's about it. I mean, if Scott Morrison wasn't so fucking hated for his complete inept handling of the COVID 1984 scenario, then, Albo probably wouldn't be here today. It's amazing what you can blame on COVID. So naturally, he tried to make Labor and Morrison like as make Labor as Morrison-like as possible. Rightio. So basically why he's shit is because he's too much like the Liberal Party. See, because he never left enough for the left, you know. You only ever get left behind. So anyway, he banned rhetorical attacks on the top end of town. Of course, he is the top end of town. Well, I don't understand how these people think what they think socialism actually is. You know, I mean, I think there's an ideology of socialism and then there's the reality of socialism, but the people who are caught up in the ideology never see the reality. Well, he's clearly struggling at this point. He promised to be thoroughly pro-business prime minister, okay, which is again against the values of the socialists. But anyway, his most noteworthy election policy was to implement the Liberal Party's planned tax cuts for the rich. Well, that's going down well for him now. What a visionary. when he did win government in 2022, it was with Labor's lowest primary vote. So even the communists are struggling to sell this guy since 1903. The last time people were that unenthusiastic about the Australian Labor Party, Chekhov was still drafting the cherry orchid. So we can see how much these guys love their communism because they're well aware of events that seem to be, you know, communist related. Especially seeing 1903. That's roughly when everything went pear-shaped for poor Russia as well. You know, obviously it's a little bit further in. It's around that World War I period more than anything. You know, after World War I's where everything went shit for them, especially for those of you who looked up Rasputin. If you haven't, I definitely recommend you have a brief read of history there. It's always very entertaining. Discovered that in year 8 myself. The least successful vote winner in the century of Labor campaigning has managed to be worse than expected. Usually an incoming Labor government will give you something nice before it starts attacking you. I love that. Even a fucking leftist can't sell this shit. I'll take something expensive and make it a bit cheaper. Build something good or knock down something bad or something like that. So that in years to come, after the full horror of the Labor government becomes clear, it can say, but don't you remember the good times? It's such a fucking accurate portrayal of the Labor government. I guess a leftist would know, hey. What were the good times of the Albanese government? Add crickets. Where's my soundboard? I should have brought that in. Fuck, I keep forgetting to bring that in. Too late now. It'll mess everything up. And when Albanese refused to call out the extreme racism of the Liberals' campaign, thus establishing that its anti-Aboriginal rhetoric was a legitimate policy debate, and when he lost anyway, and we all got nothing out of it except a few weeks of ultra intense racist propaganda. You mean reality shoved down your throat, cock knocker? Well, that was the good part. I love it. He can't even keep the leftists happy. This guy is going down. Anyway, it's a wonderful article if you want to keep ripping into it. It like, you know, watching leftists rip into their leftist leaders is just one of my favorite pastimes. That's why, you know, the comment sections these days is, you know, better than where the actual shit's happening, in my opinion. And I should probably put that on Telegram too. Just punching it into the comments for anybody who wants to continue reading it. And I should have Telegram up. Sorry, a bit lazy today. And there it is, if you want to look at that, you know, as well yourself. So let's bring that down, drop that down. Where's my articles gone? Right, cool. So, of course, you know, just to confirm that it was leftist shit, you know, I go and have a look and look, these are the kind of articles you get here. Japan's hidden history of anti-imperialist protest. WA Labour gives up on emissions targets. So these are the important things to leftists, you know. Count Chancellor Bishop is out of ANU, but the fight must continue. What's wrong with identity politics? I've got a really simple answer. Everything, article over. Edition 301, build the left to fight the right. And here it is over here, build the left to fight the right. So clearly these people have declared war on you because they are fighting you. It's pretty hard to be tolerant and accepting of other people's ideologies and ideas and whatnot. If their opening statement is, we are building ourselves to fight you. Yeah, warm and fuzzy people. Anyway, you can have a look at the red flag and to me, this is, you know, preposterous shit. Is actually a threat to the nation. And you know, if ASIO had any integrity, it'd be working on these kinds of people and not people who engage in freedom and want to live peacefully. As I continuously point out, right-wing people are just so dangerous, because you can see that, Labor politicians are still walking the streets safely. That's how dangerous we are. Anyway, EV tax break costing, not that I'm right wing or anything like that, I'm well centered, but EV tax break costing billions is mostly benefiting Australians' high income earners. Yep. So more of that socialism looking, the bottom up sort of stuff. It's working out really well, and hordes of fucking left-hearted fuckwits are actually praising this shit, nuts. A taxpayer-funded electric vehicle tax break meant to help everyday Australians. Meant to help. I like that. It's definitely meant to help. How? Is increasingly benefiting the country's highest income earners. Did anybody see that coming? As the cost of the scheme reaches into the billions. Australian Tax Office data obtained by the Australian Financial Review via a Freedom of Information request reveals 30.6% of drivers using a fringe benefits tax exemption earn more than $190,000 a year, I'm assuming. Wow, geez, I wish I was earning 190 grand a year. It'd solve a lot of my problems. While another 24% earn between 135 and 190, so clearly these people are hard up for a buck. They're most likely, that's the councillor wages, isn't it? Not the high end people that the councillors prop up with your rate money. Of course not. No, they're on a lot more. That means more than half of all recipients are among Australia's top income earners, despite the policy being initially pitched as a cost of living measure for middle income households. I don't know what they classify as middle income. I suppose when you're the Prime Minister, you're on 660,000 or whatever it was we looked at earlier. It's in that 600 capacity of some sort. Can't remember off the top of my head. But I guess this looks like middle wage to you. It's halfway between you and poverty. So, it's actually probably less than that. So, this must be low income people, according to the Labor Party, now that they're high rollers. When the federal government first introduced the electric vehicle exemption 2022, the Treasury expected it would cost approximately $90 million a year and attract fewer than 5,000 users. Wow. Brilliant. Do we need to read any further than that? Fuck that. We got shit to get through. So, Institute of Public Affairs, the CPI myth. This is interesting how official inflation statistics ignore house prices, which is a rather significant element of one's cost. I had a friend round the other day, who's unfortunately been become pension bound due to personal illness, and he was looking at his funds. He's like, wow, I get something like, I think it's 600 a fortnight or something, and 400 of that goes to rent. Wow. Doesn't leave a lot. Was it more like 800 a fortnight and 600 of that? Yeah, I think it was 800 a fortnight and 600 of that goes to rent, leaving him $100 a week. So, yeah. House prices also indicates rental prices. This is another one of those key economic things that leftists have a bit of trouble with, especially the ones in government. Well, at least when they're explaining it to you, they seem to understand it pretty well when they're making money out of it. Key findings. Australia's official inflation measure, the Consumer Price Index, otherwise known as CPI, misses the biggest cost most households face, as I just explained, or would like to be in a position to face: the cost of home ownership, not to mention the cost of rent. They seem to, again, even the ones who are pointing out the things you're forgetting are forgetting things. Given decades of often rapid increases in house and apartment prices, no shit, the CPI has systematically understated the true rise in the cost of living. Since 1998, inflation would have been up to 40 percentage points higher if dwelling prices were included, not the 114% shown in official CPI. So it should be, if it's 40 points higher, I'm guessing it's percentage points. So we're in percent. So that would make it 154% is where the CPI actually rose. So while they're using CPI as that, kind of glad that our rates are only going up by this CPI. It could be a lot worse. There may be a benefit to this. Real wages haven't risen as conventional wisdom suggests. I like, what the fuck is conventional wisdom in the first place? You know, I don't see much wisdom, especially when it comes to statistical analysis and government work. You know, they seem to be about as far from wisdom as humanly possible. You know, I think if we were to look for, you know, particularly the Labor Party's elements of wisdom, we're going to need more than a shovel. We're going to probably need some serious heavy machinery and start digging to find it. Once dwelling prices are included in the CPI, as the US used to do, so they obviously found it was a wonderful way of manipulating data as well, I'm guessing. Australians' real wages are down between 0.5% and 9%. That's a huge freaking jump. You know, like, I mean, let's give that a ruler. Look, hey, I found that Nostradamus book I was looking for. It's right here on my desk. Who would have thought? So we'll go with the 0.5. Just, I don't know if you can see. Let's, you know, expand me, I guess. You know, let's look at that on the ruler, you know, just to give it a bit of visual context. It's a bit blurry because it's focusing on the larger group, but you can see, you know, 0.5 is this tiny little bit here, all the way down to 9. That's a big chunk. That's a big chunk when you look at it like that, isn't it? You know, and not to mention, you know, this rule has still got a lot more to go. You know, it's only a 40 centimeter on this one, but straight. Anyway, importantly, I found my Nostradamus book. So real wages hadn't risen. The cost of living debate revolves around a flawed metric. Better bring that back up so you can see it. The cost of living debate revolves around a flawed metric. Isn't that important information? Which deviates from households' experience. Experience. Yeah, we're experiencing shit times, you know, deviates from our experience and risks undermining trust in official statistics. Do you think? Yeah, so you can go through all this stuff. It's interesting and whatnot, but let's just jump to it because we've got a lot to get through. You can find this yourself. You know, I'll if you want to go through and educate yourself a little bit further, it's always a good idea. You know, far be it from me to say that you don't get access to the full thing when you watch this show. You know, the conclusion is where we want to go. Including dwelling prices in the CPI at even modest shares has a dramatically positive impact on measured inflation. Wonder if that's why they keep it out. Owing to the rapid increase in dwelling prices in the 21st century. By extension, the modest official increases in real wages by deflating the WPI with the official CPI deteriorates significantly once our modified CPI series are used. A real wage decline of almost 10% since 1998 is observed for a relatively modest 15% weighing in the index. It's worth pointing out that the weight of housing in the US, Canada, New Zealand, UK CPIs is 42%, 30%, 28%, and 31% respectively, well above Australia's 21%. Now, that may be wonderful and relevant and go, well, it could be worse. We could be over there. But at the same time, you're only looking at the increase. You're not looking at the overall value. So in some cases, you'll probably find, even though, say, like, you know, using the US as an example, that 42% increase may actually still work out better than our 21% increase because we're paying a shitload more than we really should be for property prices. I believe, you know, Liberal and Labor have specifically been fucking with these things because they themselves have been making money out of this shit. You know, in a narrow sense, excluding dwelling prices but not rents from the CPI is defensible in theoretical grounds. The land component of a home is indeed an asset rather than a consumption good, and there is no standardized treatment of housing as international expense has shown. But the typical Australian household sees dwelling prices along with rents, I'm glad they finally add that in it towards the end, as a major part of their cost of living. Moreover, most would prefer to own a home than rent one. Of course, why would you want to be pumping the large majority of your money into somebody else's property? I remember when, you know, looking around to get loans and stuff quite some time ago, you know, one of the things, you know, that I was asked by one of the finance people, was, "Are you renting at the moment?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, so you're paying off somebody else's house? That's really nice of you," was the instant response. I'm like, I know. Why do you think I'm here talking to you? It's the same as when I got approved for the loan, got the house, all that sort of stuff. Go to the lawyers to get the paperwork. "Congratulations, you're a homeowner." I said, "Well, thank you, but I'm not. I'm actually a debt owner." And the woman's jaw hit the floor. She's like, "Nobody's ever said that to me before." I'm like, "Of course, because most people are fucking idiots and don't realize it. But it's okay. I appreciate the sentiment because, being a debt owner is better than being, in permanent servitude, which is another way of looking at renting. You are a cash cow living on a human farm if you're renting. I'm sorry, that's the reality of the situation in my eyes. If you have a different perception, by all means, share that with me. But as far as I'm concerned, if you are on a rental property, you are human cattle. You are literally paying somebody else's investment, and look, at the end of the day, that's a necessary thing. If you're one of those people who sort of has to bounce around to lots of different places, perhaps you're military and whatnot, you might not be interested in buying houses, especially if you can't afford them. You might just want to rent, move, and keep moving. There's lots of reasons to rent, and if that lifestyle suits you, that's wonderful. But let's not beat around the bush. You don't get to keep it. You're renting. What renting sucks. It's okay if, look, I'm not really into boats. I don't want to spend several $billions on a boat, but I'd like to go out on the weekend, so I'll just hire one this weekend. I'm not going to buy a boat just to go out for 2 days, are you? Makes sense. Sips. So this research note is not a call for the AR. That's enough. We'll deal with that. Let's keep going. So Anthony Albanese set to collect major international leadership award in New York. Now, I seen Robin posted this one. I don't know if Robin's in there today, but if you are, g'day. Thanks for posting this, because I seen this and I thought to myself, this has got to be a joke. Really? Who'd give this guy friggin' an international award? Like, what? That can't be. It's got to be a joke, It's almost as if you'd believe that, you'd believe the government would go and fucking forcibly insert vile products into your body that could kill you. Okay, I better check this, I thought. Anthony Albanese will jet to New York later this year to collect a prestigious international award, joining a winners list that includes heavyweight political leaders and A-list celebrities, Islamic terrorists, if you're looking for a place to sort of share your bomb making skills, that may be a wonderful convention for you. I'm sure these people may just really appreciate your astounding ingenuity. Just a thought, I'm not condoning violence. I think you should, just show off your skills. That's all. It's because it's all about sharing, right? The Prime Minister will receive the Atlantic Council's Global Citizens Award during the United Nations General Assembly in September at a high-profile ceremony attended by world leaders, business figures, and cultural icons. It certainly seems like we could solve a lot of problems in one place there. The Atlantic Council, Washington-based think tank founded in 1961, says the annual award recognizes individuals who demonstrate distinguished. Sorry, I was thinking Anthony Albanese, so disingenuous was the real word. I'm like, disingenuous. Obviously, no, distinguished. No, this distinguished leadership and Anthony Albanese do not go in the same sentence, or not even in the same article. Unless we're talking about the polar opposites in tackling global challenges. How the fuck has he tackled a global challenge? I mean, if we're talking about funneling money from hardworking Australians into the pockets of shit countries who can't manage their own affairs, then I guess that's a wonderful thing. It describes the event as the premier forum for world leaders, diplomats, and C-suite. I don't even know what that is. And philanthropic. Well, we know Bill Gates. That word will forever be tarnished because of him. Social and entertainment communities to celebrate the highest expression of global citizenship. Anybody realize that there's this global citizenship crap kicking off? Did you know you were signed up for it? Or have you even been asked, are we actually a part of it? Or is this global citizenship in another one of those elite clubs that you're not invited to? Last year's recipients include French President Emmanuel Macron. There's another piece of shit who's obviously doing really well in his own country. Argentinian's President Javier Milei and FIFA chief, as in football, foosball, soccer. Really? Why are they there? But the awards list of winners. How does football help global citizenship? Sort of help create violence myself, but anyway. So you get the idea. Look at that. What could you give him an award for? Being the world's most useless twat, the most unconvincing. I mean, if it wasn't for Joe Biden, you could say he was the most unconvincing leader in the freaking known world. Except they're all queuing up for that. I think that's what this really is. They've just mislabeled these awards. But yeah, apparently they're actually giving this guy a friggin' award for helping the world while fucking us. I get it must be a numbers thing. Warning over looming tax changes in WA's rental market pushed to breaking point. We might actually chuck a couple of videos in before we get to this friggin' point because there's some contradictions we need to point out here. Let's start here. Thank Robin again for putting this one up. I think it was on Twitter. I seen it. This one. I try not to repeat things, but I'm like, wow, you know what? This one's too good. This is like economics for retards by retards.
About negative gearing and capital gains tax the way that I would to my toddler. This is Giraffe, and Giraffe owns the house that he lives in. He also owns a second house that he rents out to Zebra. Giraffe makes a bit of a loss every month on the rental property that he rents to Zebra.
So we've already established old mate's bought a property and it's costing him money to have a renter in it. Very important details. I'm glad she managed to point that bit out.
And so he gets to offset that loss against his general income. And
see, she struggled to general income. Hang on. What's the word here? Of course, why shouldn't he be able to offset the loss? He's providing a home for this person.
when he comes to sell that investment property, he gets a discount on the amount of tax that he pays.
Significant amount of tax.
Zebra works for all of his income.
He works for all of his income. What about old mate? Didn't he work for his income to get the house in the first place? Like, didn't he do all the paperwork and have to do the repairs and the maintenance in the house, take an economic loss on top of this? I mean, come on. Let's put things into perspective here, love.
Like the rest of us. And so he's paying tax on all of it. So at tax time, Giraffe is paying less tax on his income than Zebra is on his income.
What? Okay, maybe so. Maybe because there's a tax write-off, he's paying a little bit less, but isn't that just intelligent business work? Like, isn't that what you're supposed to do when you understand how things really work? I mean, poor Zebra, who clearly is a rent slave in indefinite slavery until he gets himself up. I was once Zebra. I'm not quite Giraffe yet because I don't have any investment properties. I'm desperately trying to pay off my own. Anyway.
Our changes will make the system fairer so that Giraffe...
Sorry, I have to go back. I just see that comment just at the last second there. That was fucking gold. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Harps. Anyone tell this? See you in the NT. Zebras and giraffes live in the fucking wild. Oh, gold. That is wild, man. Thank you very much for that. That's put a smile on my face. Cheers, mate.
Make the system fairer so that Giraffe pays a little bit.
And I guess, thank you, Chris, but Giraffe owes more. Yeah, exactly. He's paying more tax overall, and that's something they're not fucking considering, That is no doubt being taken from his tax, then funneled back to Zebra. They are assuming, of course, Zebra in the rental is earning, is working and is not sitting on NDIS or some other sort of government benefit handout where he's probably paying no tax at all. He's actually living on tax and then funneling that tax back into the property market where old mate's taking a loss, which are all valuable contributions to a retarded story.
Will make the system fairer so that Giraffe pays a little bit more tax on his investments to give Zebra a real shot at owning his own home. I'm going to talk about...
This woman is a complete fuckwit because, you know, she doesn't explain how Giraffe paying more tax gives Zebra a chance, because it's not. Let's listen to that a bit again because it's pretty important.
His income, then paying tax on all of it. So at tax time, Giraffe is paying less tax on his income than Zebra is on his income. Our changes will make the system fairer.
So how exactly does Giraffe paying more have Zebra paying less? Because I don't see the part where Zebra got to pay less at all, especially if he's not paying tax and he's living on welfare as an immigrant who was given a shitload of money by the government.
So that Giraffe pays a little bit more tax on his investments to give Zebra a real shot at owning his own home.
How? How does that work? It's almost as good as, well, if I pay more tax, the weather will get cooler. This is left-hard thinking at its absolute finest. It is a level of retard that I'm still struggling to fathom. It actually opens up more questions than it possibly could have answered. It's fucking absolutely stupid, and only a leftist would be convinced by such horrific excuse for an explanation. It's fucking garbage. You know, I'm glad you're explaining it to your toddler, because your toddler isn't quite the victim of your stupidity just yet. Hopefully the toddler will have a chance to wake up to what's going on here. So anyway, more on from the leftist retard point of view.
You know someone who is, I want you to listen.
And this is a good one. Like, this one had me screaming. I'm like, you just want to reach down the friggin' screen and give her a good slapping.
You're a permanent resident, or you know someone who is, I want you to listen and I want you to share this. You raise your family.
So we're talking about permanent residents. They're not a citizen. Not a citizen.
Here, you paid taxes here, you built a life here, and now Angus Taylor wants to kick you off social supports. That means no pension, no age.
They work here and they build a life here. Why aren't they citizens?
Care, no NDIS. It's...
Oh no, they don't get benefits. They're not fucking citizens. This isn't welfare central. Can't feed everybody.
Ugly scapegoating politics, and it's wrong. They're trying to blame the problems facing this country on you.
On who? Not you and me. Certainly not you and me. She's not talking to you and me. She's talking to all her migrant mates, her migrant voters.
Follow the rules. You've been here for years.
Actually, I'm glad they're not citizens. At least they can't vote.
You've paid taxes into this system, and now the coalition's trying to tell you that you don't belong. Go and have a look at what's been said. If they win the election, this is what the coalition are planning to do. So make sure you get your head around this and share it with your family and friends.
Yeah, share with your family and friends. This woman is a complete retard. I mean, and the picture right there, perfect place to stop, just to emphasize that point. You know, that's her native state right there. She is a complete and utter moron. Otherwise, you know, trying to pretend to be a normal person by sitting poorly with poor posture in the passenger side. I'm guessing that's the passenger side. Who knows? She may have flipped the camera. You know, of a car. This woman is a complete and utter moron, and should be removed from the public purse ASAP. Permanently, I would say. Permanently removed from the public purse. To go directly to jail. Do not pass go. I think we had one more. Sorry, it's a little bit out of order. I meant to put this in order, but I never got around to it. Have a lot of trouble sleeping lately, and I had a bit of a mishap this morning. Yeah, somebody accidentally stepped on my thong while I was walking, and I was just starting to get my back sorted, and it's really thrown me out. Nah, yeah, I couldn't sleep properly, couldn't have my afternoon nap, which I desperately needed. But anyway, here we go. Here's some more of their moronic ideas.
Being accused of introducing a death. Anthony Albanese is being accused of introducing a death tax in disguise. Stay with us here. This is a certain type of family trust. It is used to distribute a person's money after they die. The PM has now admitted that after 2028, it will be taxed at a higher rate. Tanya, it does sound a lot like a death tax. Can you clear this up for us?
What we're saying is if the share is fixed, no change, that's fine. if you're able to shift the money around, you might be doing that to minimise tax, so that's going to have the minimum 30% tax attached to it.
A lot of people do this for all sorts of reasons. They might have a disabled child, they may have, issues with marriage, lots of kids getting married, they want the money to go where they want it to go. If you have a testamentary trust set up, will it be taxed more after July next year?
Well, like I said, there's more than one type of testamentary trust, Nat. There's the discretionary ones and the fixed ones. But can I say,
so if it's a discretionary one, you'll be taxed more next July?
Yes.
30% on the discretionary ones, but now
from next July, so you will be.
This is the reason we're doing it.
Isn't that a death tax,
This is
Tanya?
the reason we're doing. No, it's not. People who work
No, because we've called it something else.
for a living should get taxed.
Anthony Albanese.
So let's get that last line in. Really important.
This is
Tanya.
the reason we're doing. No, it's not. People who work for a living should get taxed.
People who work for a living should get taxed. That's the Labor way. That's the Labor way. If you're working hard and earning your money, we want some. Fuck you. How dare you? What's your motivation to contribute to a society that treats you like that? No. How's about you get your fucking hand out of my pocket and manage things a little bit better, you useless piece of shit? Actually, I needed to leave that, but I'll come back to it. All right. Was there another one? Oh, yeah, here's some more of the Liberal Party's tax lies being exposed. It pains me to bring in Liberal Party fuckwits, but, it's I guess, a little less painful than the Labor Party fuckwits.
That Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese, these are the pages in the budget that Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese don't want you to know about. This is where they explain that their tax changes to capital gains and negative gearing actually reduce the supply of housing by 35,000 over the next decade and push.
So here they are telling you that what they're doing is to give young people a chance at buying their homes, but it's actually going to reduce the housing.
Up rents. That's right. Higher taxes, fewer houses, and higher rents. Labor lied to Australians. They said they weren't going to change capital gains tax and negative gearing. Then they broke that promise. They said they were going to increase housing supply, but that's a lie too. And it says so in their own budget.
Authorised by J. Hume.
So there you go. Typical Labor. Step 1, lie. Step 2, make it so unconvincing it's almost impossible to sell. It's a stunning achievement. I don't know how you can be so astoundingly and obviously incompetent. Firing squad for the lot, says T2. Sips. Wow. So I'm struggling to pour this. This is all I managed to get out of it so far because it got a bit cold in the fridge. I think I might need to turn it down. It froze. G'day at America First PHL. G'day, America First. How are you? Another one of your Rumble associates, I'm guessing. How are you, buddy? Well, welcome to the show, America First. I'm going to assume perhaps you're American, judging by the time. Name then, what time is it over there, buddy? Can we get a star on that comment in case I miss it? Thanks. Let's have a look here. We're bringing this one in. And to add further weight to what Miss Liberal Party in Victoria is saying, Jane Hume, I believe it was, warning, over looming tax changes as WA's rental market pushed to breaking point. Congratulations. This is the reality of the budget, that not even a mainstream media journalist can deny this sort of stuff. And these people are certainly not the sharpest tools in the shed. Western Australia's rental market has been pushed to breaking point, according to a new report, with renters no longer able to absorb increasing costs despite a 0.3% vacancy rate. 0.3% vacancy rate. Is that something to be cheered over? Domain's latest rental report released on Thursday revealed rents were no longer rising everywhere and instead, growth was stalling or becoming increasingly uneven, even in the tightest markets. Gross rental yields for houses in Perth have declined by 10.2% in the year to March and 5.2% over the quarter. For units Gross rental yields have dropped by 13.6% over the year, 4.8% over the quarter. The market has entered a new phase, the report states, one where renters' budgets, not just the lack of available homes, are determining outcomes and increasingly shaping major life decisions, particularly for younger Australians deciding when to move out of home and where they can afford to live. I mean, I know all about this from the last 20 years, trying to figure out where I was going to live and what the hell I was going to do and how the hell I was going to do it as I watched my savings dwindle and property prices being driven up. That was before the madness that has ensued now since. I'm glad I bought when I did, because truth, I couldn't have afforded to do what I did back then now. It could not be done. You know, I'd be fucked. You know, it was just pure coincidence. And I mean, pure good timing, really. The gods smiled upon me for a brief moment. You know, it happens from time to time. But yeah, I don't know how my kids are going to do it. You know, but before COVID 1984 totally fucked everything, and let's face it, it has. It's driven the madness into overdrive. You know, I could see a bit of a plan. I figured out a little bit of a way to help prop up the kids. I'm not getting to the details. Just I had a plan. It's all gone to shit now, thanks to COVID 1984. Rental conditions still favour landlords due to the lack of supply, but the pace of growth is not being sustained at high levels. It may be good news for those looking to enter the rental market, but Limneos Property Group Manager Director James Liminos said possible changes to negative gearing and capital gains tax in 26-27 federal budget could make it harder to find a place to rent, driving demand even higher. Because, well, what's my motivation here? Because as, you know, Giraffe and Zebra pointed out, old mate's going to be paying more tax now. He doesn't really have a motivation for that rental property that he's taking a massive hit on, you know. What's his motivation to provide a rental property to people who can't even manage their own funds to get themselves a home, you know, for whatever reason, you know? And like I said, there are legitimate reasons to rent other than just being a lazy bum, you know, like, well, got to get out of mum and dad's, can't live like this anymore. And, you know, I can't afford to buy. I'm not in a good position to do that. I guess I'd better rent, you know, like a whole bunch of us musos used to do back in the day, you know. I've got no desire to buy a house with my guitarist, but I'll rent with him, you know. But the bottom line is that these proposed changes will target small investors. And that's the reality, you know. And at the end of the day, when an additional cost goes onto somebody providing a service, they tend to pass it on to the consumer as well. So those poor renters are going to probably be slugged with a higher rent, is the way I'm seeing this. And as a result of that higher rent, less able to get out of the rent slavery, who provided the vast majority of rental accommodation. So the small investors are providing the vast majority of rental accommodation in Western Australia. I would assume that trend may actually transmit across the whole country. These mum and dad property investors are investing in property to help fund their retirement, with most owing just one or two rent properties. Only one or two. Hell of a lot. The Liberal and Labor parties, they're fucking swimming in it, and they've managed to make sure that they don't have to pay. They operate on limited financial budgets and are therefore very sensitive to any changes in tax rules or regulations that they view as being negative. And of course, you know, these investments are not come with risks as well. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with making that kind of a gamble. And these are things that socialists don't understand, because especially the ones that are living on the public purse, you know, they don't understand these kinds of things too much. They don't care if you make a loss here or there. They find a way to fucking work it for themselves. But as far as the average punter goes, it's a big slug. You know, I know a bloke who has a couple of rental properties, and he was saying, like, you know, the landlords are calling up, they want this fixed and they want that fixed, which is fair enough, though. The renter's entitled to have certain things fixed. But, you know, old mate's like, well, they want fly screens on their windows. I can't afford fly screens for my windows while I'm paying all the all those, you know, damn it, loss of income on the negative geared setup for the house. So it makes sense. These are things that these people don't seem to comprehend. You know, at the end of the day, the mum and dad investors are likely to look at this and go, quick, let's sell now. You know, Where are people going to rent? As it is up here, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but up here in the north, where everybody's trying to escape the cities and come up here, has driven property prices straight 200%, if not more, in a lot of places. Compared to when I first got here, rent has gone through the friggin' roof as a result. And there's fuck all vacancies. People are struggling to find a house. One that's available, regardless of how much money you've got. So anyway, you get the basic idea. It's another one of the Labor massive lies. They clearly do not understand economics. So what do we got next? Fury at huge line of international students at food bank in Melbourne. Yep, socialism is working so well that we've flooded a place full of international students who can also not afford to live in this country, even though they obviously had enough money for mum and dad to buy them a university ticket all the way to friggin' Australia. They can't have come from too hard up a place, I'd imagine. Footage of a long queue, and I love the fact they're all phone zombies. They can afford a phone. Old mate looks like he's got a pretty expensive ring on there too. I don't know about his little friendship band though, but let's face it. Maybe if they weren't here, they wouldn't be in the food bank in the first place. Just a thought. So that's another burden on the taxpayer here. So while the universities are making money from the international students, the taxpayer is now feeding them. Thanks, guys. So Food Bank Victoria says foreign students are experiencing food insecurity. What about the Australian ones? My son's lost a shitload of weight because he's finding out what it's like to be a student. He wanted to go to the big city and do his thing. I explained to him how it was going to work, and he's getting one hell of a crash course, I can tell you that. With only 5% of students getting their recommended daily servings of vegetables. And I'm not surprised because I hear what him and his mates are doing to try and feed themselves on the limited budgets because I'm sorry, I can't afford to help him. I wish I could, but, the back's gone. Pencil necks and paper pushers have got so much time on their hands while I don't. But anyway, and has been handing out free fresh produce at pop-up markets on 6 university campuses in response. Katie Fisher, Food Bank Victoria commercial officer, told SBS News, "We've never seen a line like this before, a line this long before." So it's really reflective on the demand with the cohort that they're coming to line up for vegetables. Or is it just the fact that just like so many, socialists and whatnot, university people, use of university mindset, maybe they've just learnt to live off the public purse. Did that occur to anybody that actually they're like, well, while we're here in Australia, let's earn as much money as we can, funnel it back to our Indian family back home. And I've known Indians who have openly admitted to doing this sort of stuff. And while we're at it, hey, look, there's a free service over there. Let's rape the Australian taxpayer some more and send the money back to India. That's the kind of mentality. These things that people need to consider. But of course, no, they're international students. They must all be of the greatest character. They're students. Fuck off. Shouldn't the international student already being capable of supporting themselves? Asks one social media user. I'm inclined to agree. Shouldn't they be doing some sort of a test to make sure you can actually survive on your own without having to get government handouts? International students are meant to provide the financials on their visa application. So there is actually some sort of system going on that they can support themselves here before they come to Australia. If not, their visas are always refused by Border Force. So shouldn't we be perhaps cross-referencing this visa information with the people on the ground to see if they're just stealing from us? So there's no excuse for them to be at those booths, says another. Okay, so it's public opinion, but it's certainly the first thing I thought of before I even read this. So many international students are here on specific visas. If they're not really based in Victoria, maybe the handouts should prioritize locals struggling with costs. Yes, our money, our people. Just imagine if the Australian government and the Australian organisers looked after Australian citizens first. Wow, there's a thought. So you can see everybody's really happy about these wonderful constructs of saying, yep, cool, here we are, the Australian taxpayer, Mr. Giraffe has to pay more so the disadvantaged migrant can have vegetables. It's got nothing to do with young people having a home, does it? Yes, Japan illegal immigrants being tracked, rolled up and shipped out. So we'll come back to that one. let's have a look at what that actually looks like, shall we? It's an interesting one I've seen getting around. I'm like, oh, well, let's look this up. Surely they're not just rolling people up sushi style. Might just turn that music down so we don't end up with a flag of some sort. It seems to be Japanese police there. My God. Oh, I see that. Struggling to get beer out of that. So as you can see, police, at the risk of sounding racist, it's got Japanese writing on it, doesn't it? I wouldn't bloody know. But yeah, there they are rolling up some fella, as you can see, and they've got him in a bit of some sort of a tarp, rolling him up like he was Rasputin. Remember I said to look that up? Rolling him up like Rasputin before he entered the river. Can you imagine how traumatizing that must be for the person being rolled up in a carpet like that? I mean, I remember watching it in I think it was Alan Quatermain or something like that, and they rolled up bloody Sharon Stone in a carpet, and it kind of looked funny because they have the stupid music and everything's running a little bit fast, like a Benny Hill show or something, But in reality, that'd be pretty friggin' traumatic, wouldn't it? Like, you are literally stuck. You can't move your arms or legs or nothing. You are completely pinned. It's pretty cruel. Sort of thing. It's somewhat humane because they can't hurt themselves and you can't hurt them from a certain point of view. But at the same time, psychologically, I'd imagine that's quite traumatic. But, the basic caption that's getting around that goes along with this is, the Japan illegal migrants are being tracked down, rolled up and shipped out at record speed, fundamentally. So, we find the fact checkers. I always love these. These are extremely amusing, but this is the Japan fact checker. So, is Japan deporting illegal immigrants by rolling them up like sushi? No, it's a protective sheet. So we're arguing semantics at this point. Videos claiming that Japanese government is wrapping troublesome foreign tourists and illegal immigrants. And there's quite a few different videos. Actually, I was going to show another one, but it didn't look like I had it. So better double check that just to be sure. Yeah, that's all right. Doesn't matter. You get the point. Obviously, we know what the claim is. Here's another example of the video. Actually, does it play? No, it's just a picture. We're fact checking this. Good for you. Let's get to the point, because it actually fucks around. It's amazing how many words you can say that say virtually nothing before we get to the friggin' point, and it's set out so like university, like, look, we've got little titles that point out just how pointless this is. And this is some more pointlessness. And this is, the aim of this is to do this. And the aim is to prove that I was correct in my theory. And my theory was this. And these are the tools. I mean, for fuck's sake, can we just get on to blowing shit up? Anyway. The video runs 1 minute. Yeah, we know. 2 officers. Yeah, we know what the video is. A protective sheet used regardless of nationality. So apparently, according to the Metropolitan Police Department of Tokyo, we refrain from commenting on individual cases, but Metropolitan Police Department uses a protective sheet to safely transport persons under protective custody. Protective custody, interesting. We are not aware of whether this is used nationwide. So we're only talking about ourselves. There is no restriction based on nationality regarding who the sheet may be used on. So, it could be used on people who are somewhat violent. They just happen to be, international people. Videos claiming the Japanese, we know what it is. So they say that it's while it's true the police are using corrective sheets, there is no restriction on the nationality. So again, we're arguing fundamental points. Are they rolling people up in sushi? Well, we've just seen that they are. All right. The thing is, it's not just for the removal of people is what we're trying to go. No, it's inaccurate because it's not just them is basically what we're saying. It's interesting way. Look at how many words it took to get to that friggin' point. It's amazing, and you still have to fix it. You still have to fill in the gaps because it's not as much as what they're saying. So fundamentally, you can say this is just a really evasive way of saying we're going to call it false because we can manipulate this point of view. So let's move forward a little bit forth to Japan forward. Escorted deportations hit record as immigration enforcement tightens. There may be a correlation, perhaps, the fact that they are on record immigration enforcement. They are it seems like this is a worldwide phenomenon now. All the countries that are taking in useless bludgers are going, we've had enough, we can't afford them, get them out of here. You know, or the countries with sense, that is, you know, obviously here in Australia, sense is, you know, well, they want to get rid of cash, so there's no sense jingling around anymore. It's, you know, it's all digital, zeros, ones, on, off, on, off. Anyway, in 2025, Japan's immigration service launched its zero illegal foreign residence plan. Sounds like a wonderful fucking plan. I think we should be, I'd much rather see that 450 million go into that country I've never friggin' heard of, go into removing a lot of our burdens in society. A record 318 individuals returned to their home countries under escort that year, according to an emergency summary, marking a 1.3-fold increase from previous year. Of these, 52 had applied for refugee status 3 or more times. Under the initiative, those seeking refugee status are given priority. As in priority to fuck off. You want to hope so. The latest figures suggest the plan is gaining momentum. You know, yeah, worldwide. So obviously the purpose of this fact checking is to don't get any good ideas about removing all these people. We like bludgers. I don't understand how anybody likes bludgers, but anyway. The zero plan was announced May last year amid concerns that the safety and security of the public are being threatened by foreigners who do not follow rules. So even Japan has the problem. It's not just white nations, as they continuously try to point out, it's white people are racist. Well, it would seem that the Japanese people have the same feelings towards foreigners who do not follow the rules, who do not integrate, who do. If you come to Australia to be Australian, you're welcome. If you haven't come here to be Australian, fuck off. It's pretty simple stuff, you know. That's not racism. That's we're welcoming and open to people. But if you're going to abuse us, you're going to abuse our way of life, you're not here to become one of us, then why the fuck are you here? It's obviously not to be one of us. So there must be some other negative reason, with no doubt negative consequences. So, of course, you can go and look these articles up yourself. You know, it took me 2 seconds to find them. So off you go. You shouldn't have any trouble. If you do want them, just let me know. I'm sure I can get you a copy. The human. So this is one that was sent to me. This is an interesting one. So the human body has an organ that was classified in 1953 that just got declassified. You have 79 organs. That's what medical school teaches. That's what every anatomy textbook prints. That's what every doctor believes. You have 80 apparently. The 80th organ was identified in 1953. Remember that. They're saying it's in 1953 by a military research team at Walter Reed Army Academy. Now, I have not been able to determine anything to that nature. I can't find that. Admittedly, I haven't spent as much time looking as I probably should, but I haven't been able to find it. It was documented, photographed, biopsied. It functioned, was mapped over a 7-year study involving 4,000 soldiers. When it was classified, removed from every medical textbook, erased from every anatomy circulation, every researcher involved was transferred to classified programs. So it's making some interesting allegations here, but I have not been able to find anything to sort of prove this. The organ is located in the solar plexus regions between the stomach and the spine, approximately 4 centimeters in diameter. It appears on the image as a dense cluster that radiologists have been trained to ignore. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what this is claiming. Categorized in medical literature as benign peritoneal inclusion. Right? So, you know, in other words, a useless hunk of shit hanging around in the body. Why is it there then? Anyway, requiring no further investigation. Personally, whenever I see anything that, you know, that they think is not worth looking at, I can't help but think, I think I should be looking at it. It's not benign. It's an inclusion, which is interesting. Benign and inclusion in the same sentence. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? It's a functional organ with a dedicated blood supply. So, like, it goes on and on and on and on, you know, and you can find this at Whiplash 347 yourself if you want to read the whole fucking thing, you know. It reckons that declassification executive order 14199. So that was something quick and easy to look up, and I didn't actually have to try because good old Grok has these things in the reader's context that people thought you might want to know. And I haven't logged in, so you can see the comments, but the comments were very informative, and it led me to things such as this. And that's why I find that comments just as useful, if not more useful. What is this shit? Block element. Oh God, Gotta block that too. You can put these useless friggin' pop-ups in here, make me get secondary software to make me block all this pointless shit. Got the right bit. There we go. Finally. How many parts of it you got to block? Executive Order 14119. Scaling and expanding the use of registered apprenticeships in industries and federal government and promoting labor management forums. But this guy reckons it has something to do with organ declassification. Now, this is where why I brought this to your attention is because somebody, sent this to me who, I have a bit of respect for. And, I'm like, dude, didn't you check this? Like, that's an obvious flaw, a really quick and easy flaw to find. And I tend to find that sort of stuff in a lot of sort of flat earthy style stuff, every time somebody sends me things like that, I find myself picking it apart pretty quick. Because they make astoundingly obvious errors when you're checking these things, So, I mean, if you can't get a basic thing like that right, it makes you wonder about the rest. But another article that was associated with it, an NYU student of medicine pathology uncovers a potentially new organ setting off fiery debate. So, when was this? There's no... And that's in 2018, it would seem. In March, when Neil D publicized the study in Scientific Reports, promoting an unsung network of fluid-filled compartments beneath the skin, known collectively as interstitium, I guess is how you say it, as a full-fledged human organ, he knew he was onto something big. He just didn't know how big. The report was greeted by 2,400 news articles, nearly 3.8 billion online reviews, and no small bit of controversy as scientists continue to debate the implications of his discovery. For this part, Dr. Theis, I don't know, professor of pathology, is more interested in uncovering the intricacies and implications of what would, if accepted by the scientific consensus, be human body's 80th organ. Now, you could argue that, all right, that they started doing this and they've got old mate, to find it. They've just let him find it. They're going, well, let's declassify it, but we've declassified it under an act that doesn't fucking line up. So your story's fallen apart pretty quickly. There's no governing body that says, yes, this meets the definition of an organ, which is an interesting idea. Much like the whole Pluto scenario, shouldn't there be a defined parameter? And I'm sorry for all you Pluto lovers. It is not a planet. It does not rotate on its own axis as defined. But anyway, I'm not getting into that. What has surprised you most about the scientific community? I knew there would be pushback and criticism because that comes with anything that changes paradigms. I love that. That is ultimate. It doesn't matter what you're looking at, that is relevant to everything that's new. I knew there would be pushback and criticism because that comes with anything that changes paradigms, which suggests that people don't like change very much, especially when there are vested interests in it. We're an interdisciplinary research team so far, including endoscopes, a hepatologist who is also a cell and molecular biologist and a pathologist. We came in from left field, and naturally those who are in the facial world or the interstitial world. Sorry, I'm not doing well today. Who are you to say we missed all this stuff? I would have the same resistance if someone from neuropathy made a liver discovery about upended my assumptions. So again, upended my assumptions is the key element to the pushback and criticism, because it comes down to people defending their position, which is a common problem within the scientific community and often comes down to he who has the most money wins, like most things. So yeah, be careful when you find things like this that inflate a wonderful idea of a conspiracy theory. That, we need to check facts and make sure that what you're talking about makes sense. When you have a gaping hole like Executive Order 14119 that clearly leads to something else, then you've got a problem. Your integrity has now been destroyed by one simple fuck up. So make sure you get your shit right. Obviously, there are other mentions in there, like the Dantian in Chinese medicine, which seems to refer to the same thing. Here we are, a guy in a white lab coat is finally making a discovery that Chinese medicine figured out some 2,000 years ago. But it doesn't just stop there. Hinduism also has Shatya Purusha, refers to the psychic being or soul within a person that evolves through successive lives and guides. This has all come from the comments section. So it's always good when you see something like this, check the comments, because you'll find a lot of the time people have done most of the hard yards for you. It's a very wonderful community we have, particularly on X, where people actually think, do research, and present facts, which you quite often find is a bit of a problem for leftists because, oh, it's good to see the bots are out today, rather than actually address the fact that a valid point has been through, we'll just accuse them of being a bot. Fuckwits, absolute fuckwits. So how much of a cancer is processed meat? This is another one where I thought, bacon being classified as a carcinogen, you've got to be shitting me. Bacon's been around for donkey's years. You can't tell me now that it's friggin', been eating it since I was knee-eyed or a grasshopper. I ain't got fucking cancer. Fucking retards. Bacon and other processed meats. I thought it was a cured meat myself, but I suppose if you're referring to the preservative, I believe it's 250 in most products, then we might be talking about a carcinogen. Perhaps you're looking at the wrong part of it. Looking at the product as a whole after you've added a preservative to it, that's not fair. But to put it alongside tobacco, alcohol, asbestos, and plutonium. Wow. Bacon and plutonium together in one happy family. That's almost like putting Albo in an award ceremony. It just doesn't make sense. This list of carcinogens is part of Group 1. This is compiled by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. And they've done a fucking wonderful job, haven't they? How many billions and trillions of dollars has been pumped into the International Agency for Research on Cancer, and they've come up with bacon's going to kill you. That's where all your hard-earned donations to Anti-Cancer Council goes to taking away your bacon. Makes you wonder what kind of people have been doing this research. Was it the Muslim or the Jew? I'm not sure. Either way, they want bacon gone. The IRC, part of the World Health Organization, made IARC, made the addition of bacon and processed meats in October 2015 based on over 800 different studies of cancer in humans. When they say processed meats, do they mean plant-based as well? Because that seems to me like some sort of a processed meat product, definitely processed. Not everything in Group 1 carries the same level of risk. For example, sunlight is also in Group 1. This is the level of intelligence of these people. Sunlight is also bad for you. Go figure. The life giver itself, that which has been worshipped since the dawn of time as we understand it, you know. I mean, fucking hell. Ever heard the story of Horus and Set? Why do you think the sun sets? You know, pretty important stuff, you know, especially when you start to realize the majority of religion is fundamentally based on sun worship. But hey, are they saying that religion is also carcinogenic because they fundamentally base their religions on sun worship? You know, anyway, I'm not going to get into that in extensive detail. I might do that another day, as it is a proven cause of skin cancer. And this is fucking retarded logic. Sunlight is bad for you because it could cause, it's a proven cause of skin cancer. It's got nothing to do with your diet, you know, like that's it. We've ruled it all out. It's just sunlight causes skin cancer, and so does bacon and plutonium. Yep, we're real smart science over here, as it is a proven cause of skin cancer. Fuck off. But the risk it poses varies according to your behavior, circumstances, and exposure to the sun. I suppose exposure to bacon as well. However, you might be surprised to learn the risks from eating processed and red meat aren't negligible. Notice they've just snuck red meat into this. It wasn't there to begin with, but now red meat's been added to it. Look out. Bill Gates' bugs. The WHO says eating 50 grams of processed meat a day increases your risk of developing bowel cancer from 6% to 7%. That means the risk has actually increased significantly. So eating processed meat every day makes it more likely you could develop bowel cancer. But what about, you know, people who are stuck on painkillers while they wait for pencil next to fucking sort their shit out, you know, binding their asshole up? Do you reckon that might cause some kind of bowel cancer as well? Should we put pharmaceutical grade medicines on that list as well? I can tell you from experience, it's certainly done my asshole no good. What counts as processed meats? You know, well, we know this. Bacon, sausages. Now the great Australian sausage is on the fucking chopping block. Look out. Salami, the Yankee hot dog, you can fucking keep that. I don't know if it's a great Australian sausage. Actually, it's probably more a Wurst sort of a scenario coming from places like Germany, who many of German have stated, your sausages suck, mate. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's a fuck. We call them lucky dicks here because you don't know what you're getting in them. Corned beef and any meat or poultry. Now, any meat or poultry, you know, I mean, Struth, look, all you carnivorous fuckers, we are coming for you. Left-hearted fuckwittery at an all-time high here. According to the Cancer Council research, 21% of bowel cancers and 3% of all cancers in the UK are caused by eating red or processed meat. By comparison, they report that 86% of lung cancers and 19% of all cancers in the UK are caused by tobacco. Look at all these natural products doing problems. Like, I mean, again, is it caused by tobacco or is it caused by the 600 chemicals added to the fucking tobacco? Is it caused by the meat or is it caused by the actual chemicals being pumped in there as preservatives, perhaps, most of which seem to have carcinogenic properties to them when I look them up? It's very interesting, again, how we can blame the sun for causing cancer, how we can blame food, how we can blame an ancient ceremonial herb, otherwise known as tobacco, but by denying all the other factors like society's poisons dumped on top of it. Interesting. I don't think I want to read this any further in fear of becoming extremely angry. Oh, we did that one. So it looks like we've reached the end of this component. Thank you all for being here for that. So I might leave it there because we may have to look something else up. So anyway, video time. We might grab one of these longer ones and take a bit of a break. Yes, they want us to eat the bugs. Word is salavi. So there was a longer one here. Where is it? Did we do the death tax trap? I think we did. Yeah, we did. No. Sorry. I got to find it. While we're waiting, let's have a look at some trans shooters. I'll give you something to do while we figure this out.
What you will not hear from us today is the names of these two suspects. Today is about our victims in our community coming back together again.
So why don't they want you to know? Because it would appear that the shooters at the mosque were transgenders. Seems no one's safe from the transgender insanity. More than happy to go nuts, you know. Radicalized trannies again, you know. This is what happens when you don't cure a mental illness, rather you encourage it. Well, look at what happens. That's why we don't want to talk about the names. And there's lots of things that you don't hear about the names. Like remember the mosque shooter in New Zealand. That's it. That we're never talking about him again. We're erasing him from history. God knows what they did to that guy. Did he get a fair trial? Who knows? Seps. Martin Bryant, locked away, no trial. Wonderful. All right, I found the video. Here you go.
A series of news broadcasts on television and on our websites, as well as social media posts about Corsair Abbas, also referred to as Corsair Ahmed. A photo of Fatma Mallouk was mistakenly used in those publications.
Hello, I'm Linton Besser. Welcome to Media Watch. And first tonight, the not very small error of wrongly identifying a woman as a potential ISIS loyalist and sympathiser of terrorists, when Channel 7, amidst the frenzy that greeted the recent arrival of 4 so-called ISIS brides, didn't bother with a fact check.
Some of the women are expected to be arrested for questioning following months of debate over whether they should be allowed to return to this country.
Because that last woman is not an ISIS bride at all, but someone else entirely. Rather than Kaursar Abbas, she is Fatma Malouk, who for the past 6 years has been living not in detention in Syria, but in the suburbs of Melbourne, with Seven rolling out a grovelling mea culpa last Wednesday.
7 News sincerely and unreservedly apologises to Ms Malouk for any hurt, embarrassment or damage that it has caused by this error.
And the balls up was a doozy. The photograph running alongside breakfast TV commentary like this.
Slavery, terrorism, crimes against humanity, all alleged.
Slathered across Seven's social media accounts, then replayed that night during prime time in Sydney.
Kaursar Abbas headed for Syria 2014 for a family wedding. Her husband suspected of funding IS.
Melbourne.
The ISIS brides are one concern for police and ASIO, but others argue their children have been largely forgotten.
And every other television market, coast to coast, across Australia. The following day, according to her solicitor, when Fatma Malouk became aware of Seven's grotesque error, she sprung into action.
Fatma sent an urgent email to the news desk of 7 News and categorically stated that she was not Kaursar Abbas. She also asked them to cease any further publication of her image and publish a correction. They did not respond.
Instead, Seven carried on its defamation, running Malouk's photo again that Friday night across the country and for good measure in its Sunday and Monday night bulletins, until Fatma Malouk hired a lawyer who finally managed to get Seven's attention. 2 days later,
Ms Malouk is in no way associated with the crimes that Kaursar has been charged with.
So what on earth happened? For starters, it's possible Seven had decided to follow the always cautious lead of that paragon of forensic research, the Daily Mail, which first published the photo after rifling Facebook and assumed, but never checked, it was correct. Unlike Seven, the Mail did respond when Malouk complained to it, removing the image and printing this correction. News Corp, meanwhile, had published that photograph too at the top of news.com.au's homepage and in the Saturday Telegraph and the Advertiser, as well as online, where it stayed syndicated across its titles. The company unaware of its error until we contacted it last Friday. This editor's note finally appearing the following day. Fatma Malouk's lawyer told us her client was devastated.
This has caused her extreme distress and has seriously damaged her reputation.
Neither the Daily Mail nor News Corp would explain to us their errors, and when we asked Seven how it screwed up and why it declined to respond to Fatma Malouk's earlier entreaty, a spokesperson told us
an error was made and corrected.
That clears that up then. Although Seven has been here before, these from the past few years.
Earlier this morning, reports of the incident incorrectly named the perpetrator. Seven apologises for any distress caused by our earlier reports.
We mistakenly included images of Alistair McLean of McLean Sport Horses.
We got it wrong. Mr Kelly, a new father himself, was in no way connected with Cleo's abduction.
In the story we aired earlier, we accidentally showed the wrong person when referring to the suspect.
It is perhaps understandable that serious mistakes are made in the scramble to cover a rolling news story. It might even be forgivable. But when you're airing among the worst possible allegations about a person, complicity with terrorism among them, why you wouldn't hasten slowly is beyond me. Oh, and what is unforgivable? The failure to listen when you're being told you've got it wrong. Seven can now expect to pony up some very serious compo. And now to the Canberra disease that has thoroughly contaminated Downing Street.
Will you resign, Prime Minister? Is your term over?
Will you challenge Keir Starmer? West Riddick, do you want the job or not?
Less than 2 years after Sir Keir rode a Workers' Party landslide into office, another may see him removed after a bloodbath election 11 days ago saw Labor lose almost 1,500 English council seats, most to Reform UK, led by beer-swilling populist and Brexiteer-in-chief Nigel Farage.
And they call this unbiased friggin' reporting. Like, I mean, you've seen just how horrific. Sorry, obviously to take a bit of a break, but that first component there, where we seen Channel 7 completely fuck everything up and get it all wrong, which is astounding. I thought it was a stunning display of the arrogance of the mainstream media. A wonderful opportunism from far left media that claims to be central. And this is the funny thing. Everybody who's in some form of a media claims to be central. As far as I'm concerned, I'm well-centered. They call me far right. As far as I'm concerned, they're far left in the ABC, and the mainstream media are, pretty well left, and they should all be left behind, as far as I'm concerned, which is good to see them actually fighting each other, these two leftist things, because they should ultimately cancel each other out as they're vibrating on the same frequency, basic audio engineering sort of stuff, anyway. But now we're moving into this, and you can hear the vile taste in his mouth, so we have to insult and attack, the beer swilling horrible person that's standing up for the people. Well, fuck you, I'm swilling a beer too, you fucking turd. Sips to you and all your leftist scum for inspiring a great awakening amongst the rest.
Farage's vow to fix Britain.
Election meltdown.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shit, I hit the wrong button. Exactly. Election meltdown as the left are losing their fucking minds here. Election meltdown indeed. Oh, look, you can go into this, and I sat down and I watched this with a friend of mine the other day, and it's hard to watch. This guy is a complete leftist fuckwit, but it is amusing from a certain point of view. I agree with you, T2. Fuck them all. Metallica had an attitude towards these kinds of people too on their first album in 1983, but that might be a bit extreme. Anyway, it's the ABC media is possibly some of the hardest to watch unless you're looking for a laugh, and you can actually laugh at the absolute retardation of this, So obviously they're really upset that even GB News, they even criticized GB News. This is a good one, actually. We should probably listen to this fucking tripe because I've got to laugh at it. I think it's about here.
So I'm just going to call in on my phone.
Losing its founding chairman and star anchor, Andrew Neil, an eminence grise of British journalism, just months after its launch. Since then, the station has become a force to be reckoned with, opening each morning with a rousing rendition of the national anthem.
What a horrible thing to do. You can clearly see the right-wing extremism here, all those beautiful landscapes and, a little bit of a patriotism, a love for one's country, I mean, is giving welcome to country the same kind of horrific patriotism that the ABC is trying to get at here? I'm not sure. What point does patriotism become good leftist values versus extreme right wing? I'm confused. Much like the way there's the Zionist view and the Nazi view, and I sometimes get confused from one supremacy to another. I don't know how people can divide these concepts myself. Personally, I lump it all into the same bucket, but that's just me.
And eclipsing BBC's news channel as Britain's most watched dedicated television news service. Critical to its rise, Chief Executive Angelo Frangopoulos, an Aussie who, after years running Sky News Australia, unpacked from his suitcase the same After Dark formula of...
The After Dark formula. I mean, when's Media Watch played? Let's find that out. When does Media Watch air in Australia on the ABC? I was tempted to put Gay BC, but it'll get confused. Oh, Monday at 9:15 p.m. Is that some more After Dark journalism? Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it for yourself right here. Monday at 9:15 p.m. Some more After Dark media Well done, fucktard. I love the way the pot's calling the kettle black yet again. Gotta love a good leftard. Gotta love them.
Archly conservative programming.
Like your dogmatically, archly leftist dogmatic programming. You fucktard. Their ability to project themselves onto somebody else is fucking astounding.
Running it during daytime hours too. And
oh no, they run it through daytime hours as well as the after dark nefarious times like the gay BC.
And turning the dial to 11 in giving Farage his own show.
Oh, this one went to 11. I mean, we're going to take the piss out of Spinal Tap at the same time now? You fucking cock-knockers.
Why am I here? Why have I decided to join GB News full on?
Oh, I think we know, Nigel.
Yeah, because of fuckwits like this. Well, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen. There is more to be seen there, but by God, it's hard to watch. The holes in every word that falls from this fuckwit's mouth is Swiss cheese would be envious. What can I say? All right, let's move right along then, shall we? Let's pull in another video. I've got quite a few to choose from here. So we've got that bit. We did that bit. Oh, yeah. Well, we spoke of welcome to country and whatnot before. So let's hear what the Defence Force has to say about it, seeing, they're the scapegoat at the moment for racism.
Be disappointing considering the part...
Let's get that from the top.
Acknowledgement of country. That must be disappointing considering the part Indigenous Australians have played in the armed forces.
I love the way they've attempted to manipulate this by going, oh, the Indigenous people had a part to play in the armed forces. Yeah, and so did the Irish, English. how many other people come from various different things? Americans, I mean, and we're just talking about here in Australia, not talking about the actual other entities that had a part to play in various world wars. It was a world war after all. Everybody seemed to be involved. I believe that's what World War sort of points at, but maybe in a few countries just going back, seriously, guys, can you stop fucking blowing each other up? You're fucking up my hair. I don't know. But the retardation of these reporters, and this is even Sky News. Well, the leftists are bagging the shit out of Sky News for being fucking right-wing bullshit, Here they are pushing left-wing bullshit.
Well, one of the things that we in the Defence Force are defending, as I've said, is our democracy and freedom of expression. So whilst that might be disappointing, those are exactly the principles that the Australian Defence Force is designed to defend.
Yep. All the way since fighting one communist regime after another.
Yeah. Well, listen, we really appreciate your time this morning.
That's not what we wanted. We were trying to be lefty progressive lunatics here at Sky News for a moment there while pretending to be right-wing at the same time. Yes, we do have a bit of an identity crisis here. Yep, old mate is struggling to digest that one because he's clearly filled with alleged progressive values, although we know what alleged in left, what progressive means in left. It means regressive. They have trouble with definitions of things. You've got to help them out as often as you can. But in the meantime, look out. We got some more friggin' problems coming our way. Diphtheria. Bit dippy, this one, perhaps for the dipsticks.
Vaccination efforts to be scaled up amid one of the
Of course they are. Profits must be down.
worst outbreaks of diphtheria in Australian history. More than 100
And I love this shit. This is brilliant. Fucking,
diphtheria in Australian history. More than 130 cases have been confirmed in the NT, including one suspected death.
130 people. How many million we got in this country? Bit of a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
It's also crossed borders with almost 80 known cases in WA's Kimberley region, 6 in South Australia and up to 5 in Queensland.
Up to 5. How is it 4 or 5? Is it 3? Is it 2? Is it 1? Up to 5. Like, again, that's manipulative language, trying to make it bigger than it is. It's 5 fucking people at best, you fucking retard.
Our reporter Joseph Hathaway-Wilson joins us now from Darwin. Joseph, this is widespread.
Valerie, my God, really? You've seen high heels and lips. That's how much the mainstream media has clearly been distorting the view of the military. They should be in high heels and lipstick. Or have you been watching that Jewish propaganda stuff? What do you call it? Allo, allo, where all the Germans were queers and playing with the Madonna with the big boobies.
That's exactly right, Gemma. This outbreak, which began just in the Northern Territory, has now exploded, and as you mentioned, it has gone interstate, with over 200 confirmed cases nationally this year. It's important to note, however, that this outbreak didn't occur overnight. In fact, the first public health alert from Northern Territory Health came on around the 25th of March, just under 2 months ago. And it was around that same time that we began to see public authorities, such as Northern Territory Police, take precautions against the spread of diphtheria, wearing gloves and being wary of grazes and scratches and so on.
Oh, wow.
Since
Basic
then,
medical
health
procedure.
authorities say they've seen cases grow by about 15 to 20 per week. Just to revisit those numbers, we've now got 133 confirmed cases in the Northern Territory, 5 in Queensland, 6 in South Australia, primarily.
The old mate didn't fuck with that. It's not up to 5. It's straight out 5. I'm glad he cleared that up for us because these reporters are fucking useless.
Around the APY lands and 79 in Western Australia, primarily around the Kimberley. Here's what Dr.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Andrew. Hantavirus didn't work, so they went with Ebola and now diphtheria. Stop jumping the gun. I haven't got there yet. Slow down, mate. Slow down. So there's some people aren't quite as quick as you.
John Boffa had to say about the outbreak.
It's to be scaled up amid what?
Sorry, Rachel, you gave me laughing so much I slipped. This has got 12 years old. Mate, I wouldn't be surprised.
The outbreak.
They can't find people with experience to really talk about these things. They gotta grab some poor kid who knows nothing and just read from the textbook.
Had one probable death, so there's a low. That's a low mortality rate, but this is still a very.
Thank you. That's a low mortality rate. See what happens when you bring the elderly people in with a bit of perspective.
Very severe and serious and potentially life-threatening illness for people who are unvaccinated or undervaccinated.
Oh, fuck off with your vaccination bullshit. We're going to show you we're going to pull your pants down about that in a minute.
It is everywhere. Everyone living in every community needs to be getting vaccinated, getting boosters.
Oh, we all need to be getting vaccinated. Yeah, I'm not convinced of that. We're going to pull your pants down.
If it's been more than 5 years since they last had a booster, because this bacteria is everywhere.
Joseph, what?
This bacteria is everywhere. My God, germaphobe.
Challenges are health authorities facing in containing this?
Well, as we just heard, it's really how widespread this disease is and the low rates of vaccinations in some of the areas where it has hit the high.
They keep repeating that same low rates of vaccination, low rates of vaccination. Repeat the lie, repeat the lie, repeat the lie, repeat the lie.
Hardest. Now, to put it into context, according to the Australian Centre for Disease Control, this is a disease which over the past several decades hasn't...
Check, vax, act. So getting vaccinated isn't acting. Is that what they're saying? Or is the vaccination the act? We checked out the shit, then we realized the vaccination is just an act. Perhaps they're helping us out. You just got to sort of look at these things the right way.
Really?
Not the left way, the right way.
Gone above that, 5 diagnoses per year mark. That's changed in recent years since about 2022, and as mentioned, this year has really taken off into the 200s. Now, some of those remote regional...
Do you have a sore throat? Isn't that the beginning of all their fucking scenarios? Do you have a sore throat?
Primarily Indigenous communities in the Northern Territory and in Central Australia have been hardest hit by the outbreak, and we're seeing plenty of pop-up vaccination clinics appear there, but it is...
So they're targeting the poor Indigenous communities who are more than happy to not deal with this vaccination white magic, perhaps you might call it. They were quite happy until, some diseased people come into the country. Who have we been importing a lot of lately? Do you think that might have come in offshore?
A large-scale undertaking. Authorities estimate there's around 9,000 people who need vaccination in the centre.
So 140 people are sick. 9,000 people need vaccination. Really? They need vaccination. It's not we've offered them and they've refused. They need it. They must have it. Take it. Take it. Take the poison.
Central Australian region alone. And they're bringing in all tiers of government, Aboriginal controlled organisations and interpretive services to help with this vaccine rollout.
to help with the vaccine rollout. We're bringing in all the guns to impose our will. It'd be another way of saying it.
Here's what the Federal Health Minister, Mark Butler, who just spoke on this matter, had to say.
We're tracking a little more than 220 diphtheria cases so far this year. To put that in context, we've been recording case numbers nationally for about 35 years, and this, by a very big distance, is the biggest outbreak of diphtheria we've ever seen. It's about 30 times the average number of diphtheria cases that we've seen over the last 5 years or so. So it's a very, very concerning outbreak.
So you can hear there just exactly how concerned the federal authorities are about this outbreak.
Oh, yeah, we should be really worried about the statements from known liars. Yep, of course. Now, there's a little, I just want to segue here for a little moment. I don't even know if I want to go back to that fucking pile of tripe. 280 is approximately 0.001% of the 28 million people that we roughly have. 0.001%. Yep, huge friggin' problem. Huge friggin' problem. I mean, it's one simple question of AI, and you can see how quickly we can fucking pull this shit apart. Yep, Sesame Street, T2. You're right. Well, I'm not going to waste my time with that horrific piece of preposterous nonsense. You know, they've spent, 2 or 3 minutes, trying to invoke fear wherever they could. Let's get to a shorter video that gets to the point a lot quicker. Here's some other numbers that they're probably not so keen on.
And legacy media with the fear porn, blaming unvaccinated children for the latest diphtheria outbreak. And yet, if we look a little bit into the story, what they're not telling you is that in early May, 74% of the cases had 3 or more vaccinations.
There you go. Let's hear that again. I think that really sums it up.
Had 3 or more vaccinations.
Oh, sorry. Go back a bit further.
74% of the cases had 3 or more vaccinations.
74% of these people. So that's 3/4, rounded off just a little, just a bee's dick, 74%, 3/4 of those who are sick have had multiple vaccinations. Some 5 doses, 5 doses. How many doses do you need to become bulletproof? Wasn't that the COVID question? Wow, you could ask the same of the diphtheria vaccine, eh? And apparently that one's been properly tested and actually went through all the protocols and still comes up fucking useless. 74% of cases are vaccinated. Yet we need to get vaccinated. I don't know. Basic maths here. It seems you're more likely to get sick if you're vaccinated to me.
So how on earth are you blaming the unvaccinated for this outbreak? What a joke.
So this outbreak, we have over the years seen a smattering of diphtheria cases, but unfortunately with the falling immunisation rates, we are now seeing our largest outbreak, as you said, in decades. That is largely to do with immunisation rates.
Yep, it is largely to do to immunisation rates. As this lovely lady has pointed out, 74% of your sick people are vaccinated. So obviously it would seem don't get vaccinated because you're more likely to get sick, it would seem. As if COVID wasn't a good enough fucking example, here's another one. Thank you, mainstream media. Thank you to the fuckwits at the WHO and every one of you other propagandists, fear porn mongers who are trying to sell fear wrapped up in germophobia. It's brilliant. You guys are destroying yourselves. Keep going, please. You're providing so much entertainment and so much content for those of us who actually have the ability to see for ourselves. It's a hard task, but somebody's got to do it, and it's good to see so many amazing people across the world and the country banding together to sell the truth. Now, I know old mate previously jumped the gun, but let's get into it. Here's some more, of everybody's favorite terrorist turned politician.
I thank the Prime Minister
because based on the request WHO made, he accepted. And the request I made was based on international health regulation. And countries are expected to cooperate based on that international health.
You are expected to cooperate with a terrorist, an unelected one who's made himself a politician, and signed a whole bunch of dirty treaties that you never really signed, which makes, as far as I'm concerned, null and void.
Regulation. But not only the IHR, I think we should also be strong believers of solidarity.
Oh, solidarity. Yeah, solidarity against scum like you, I think, is where we really need to be. So thank you for employing that idea.
Solidarity, because that's our best immunity. It's only when we support each other that we can respond more effectively.
So to hear that, we need to support each other as a community to respond effectively against international terrorists.
To virus or to outbreaks like this. And it's also a moral duty.
Yep, it is a moral duty that we band together against these kind of scumbags who wish to impose a global tyranny, the likes of which we haven't seen. Which I thought he was going to get into the Ebola thing. It would appear that, I've got things a little bit askew here. Thought I had something on the thing there, but anyway, we'll just go through systematically. So just based on the names, it's going to be a little bit erratic, but this way I won't miss anything. So Elon had an interesting perspective here. Love him or hate him, I don't know if I trust him. I'd be more inclined to trust David Icke than any of these people these days. But he does make a very interesting point on the concept of peace, which is something I've noticed come up a little bit on X lately, from various different people going, why can't we have peace? Which I always point down to, well, have a look at all the people who are trying to control you, mind, body, and soul, whether it's your religious doctrine, whether it's your political doctrine, whether it's your medical doctrine, science, or look at everybody who's trying to control your mind in some way, shape, or form. They always provide you fear. You need to get vaccinated or you'll die. You need to support us in this political movement because that guy's the bad guy. I don't even need to fucking pick sides on this one because they all say it. It's all the same. Why can't we have peace? I simply point out, look at all the people at the top who want your consent to be ruled mind, body, and soul. They're the ones who are causing the problems.
Praying to God and you ask for a given future. What future do you want God to give you? And probably a future where there's amazing abundance for all, where everybody has incredible medical care, and we have this, in fact, where say anything can be cured, where no one is hungry and people are free to do what they would like. I think that's probably the best future.
And peace.
Now, it's pretty hard to disagree with what Elon said. And and peace and love. Okay, well, let's see what happens here.
Peace and love.
Well, yeah. I mean, always worry about, if you wish for something, does it actually become some dystopian version of that? But certainly love. I mean, I think we want a future with love. That seems like a no-brainer. Peace is an interesting one because, sometimes the price for complete peace may be too high, because the complete peace may require too much suppression
of the people. So too much peace could require the suppression of the people. Certainly seems to be the sales pitch. Peace sells, but who's buying? Wow, I'm not buying it when it comes at such a high price.
So perhaps there is peace to some degree, but not completely. Ideally, there's not a large-scale war, of course. But, you have to think about these questions kind of deeply. Do you want a world where there's no conflict? But how do you achieve a world of no conflict at all without some form of suppression? So my guess is probably people would want a future with some conflict, not total peace, but not a serious war, perhaps.
So I think is a very interesting perspective. It's interesting, because I can't help but disagree with the fundamental principles of what he's saying there, especially, well, of course we want love. That's a no-brainer. Did you even have to mention that? Anyway, I suppose when there's a bunch of satanic pedophiles running the world, I guess you do have to mention the concept of love, because those guys are obviously very far removed from that concept. I mean, unless you consider child rape some form of love, in which case, I think I might need to be more heavily armed. Much like that religion thing that where they need a knife, I think we need, something else religiously to defend ourselves from satanic pedophiles. I'm not sure what that might be. I'll leave you guys to figure that out. Anyway. So this is a good one because obviously everybody's hating on One Nation at the moment.
Your family.
At least the leftists are having a good crack. And the old mate here, as you can see, he's not white. Am I racist for pointing that out? Is this racist? Well, let's have a look.
Neil, your family came to Australia about 40 years ago from Fiji. Yeah. What do you think about One Nation?
I reckon she's fantastic, to be honest with you. Someone who loves her own country so much, that's not racist. You have to have pride in your country. And we came from Fiji as well, and we came to this best country that we call home now. I call myself Australian.
I like that. This best country. I call myself Australian now. I don't call myself Fijian or Indian. Brilliant.
That we call home now. I call myself Australian. I don't call myself Fijian or Indian. I've put a Australian flagpole in my front yard, and you come to this country, embrace the Australian way of living, or you know what, stay where you are.
Now that man is a welcome immigrant. That man is an actual immigrant because he's come to be a part of our country and our culture, and he is most certainly welcome. So don't call me a fucking racist, you left-hearted fuckwits out there, or you woke trolls, whatever. That is a proper immigrant.
I've heard some of Pauline Hanson's comments about race. Do you think her party promotes racist ideas?
If you really look into it, she's really only trying to protect her own country, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if someone coming into my house, I will protect my house from someone if they're bringing different values into my house and trying to teach my kids something different. Well, you know what, you're not welcome.
Sums it up pretty well. I love it. Even the migrants are starting to see through the bullshit the mainstream media are peddling. They are desperate to continue the racist narrative. It's the only fucking thing they've got against One Nation's astounding surge. But people have heard the racist card. It's been pulled out of the deck so many times. We can see it coming before you pull it out of the deck. It's not a magic trick anymore when you got 54 cards or whatever in the deck. I know you say 52, but you forgot the jokers. And those two jokers are the worn out cards, because those are the woke cards. Those are the racist cards. They're pulled out of the deck so often they're worn out. You can see them coming a mile away now. The magic trick is over. We can see what's really going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Of course you can. You wouldn't be here if you weren't, unless you're just some kind of a fuckwit that needs to be banned every fucking 10 seconds. Like you think you're actually achieving something? You're really not. You're just being an absolute tool. And I don't understand how you can be against such basic common sense. I really can't comprehend it. When it comes down to common sense, particularly when it comes to political work here, it's one of the wonderful things to do is to go and have a look at what things were like back in the day where we could actually have an honest conversation, especially on television. And here's a prime example of a glimpse into the past.
Of course, in your years as a member of the Liberal Party and also as a minister in the Liberal government, what did you find hardest? The fact that sometimes you really didn't have to be untrue to yourself, but you had to follow a party line that wasn't really you?
Oh, no, you're quite right. You had to be untrue to yourself. And this is what this damned party discipline does to decent people. See, 99% of people who go into politics go in for one reason, and that is to try to make Australia a better place for kids. That's basically the reason. 3 months after, in Canberra, there are different people, because the party, the first day in Parliament, the party whip calls them all together and he says, well, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations for being elected to Parliament. Now, you can forget all that rubbish you talked about during the election campaign. Now that you're here, you'll do, think, and particularly vote, as we, the party, tell you. Now, that does something to people after a while. You find yourself voting and speaking for things you don't believe in.
Well, that certainly wouldn't suit you. Is that the reason you got out of the Liberal Party?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
There you go. Party politics is a bit of a poison, it would seem. Doesn't matter whatever bullshit you told the people, that's fine. You're part of the Liberal Party now. do as you're told. Isn't that right, Philip Thompson? You're very good at doing what you're told, following orders and whatnot. Another wonderful, stunning example of people who follow the party narrative against their own better judgment, I believe, is that fella. I think deep down he probably is a good bloke. He probably got in there for the right reasons. But at the end of the day, his testicular fortitude is lacking due to the fact that he's on a choker. Has anybody else ever noticed how you got to wear a collar and tie? And the word collar, I mean, what do you put on your dog? Put a collar on your dog, don't you? And then you put a lead, you attach the lead to the collar, much like a necktie, right? But apparently it's a wonderful way of showing that you're being respectful. Or is it a wonderful way of showing that you're actually under control? Gotta wonder, eh? Is the collar and tie just a symbol that you are an animal subservient to a higher person? And that's the thing. I thought about that when I was in high school, daydreaming, listening to fuckwits talk shit. Most likely a fuckwit in a suit and a tie. If I could actually picture the guy too. He was a nice enough fella, but he right, pole up the ass sort of a dude, you know, and always had the suit and a tie. Pole up the ass, you know, not, you know, it's a standing tall in his pride. And, you know, that's cool. You know, I get that from, you know, from that martial arts defense point of view that I was talking about in previous podcasts. I get that concept, but, you know, and again, it's a uniform. It's the uniform, perhaps, you know, when you're standing in the dojo, you got your uniform on, you know, and it's a fundamental fucking soldier mentality as well. There is a discipline to it, but that is also a discipline of bowing down and taking orders from a higher authority. And that's fair enough when you've come to learn something, you know, but when I just want to live my life, I haven't chosen to partake in politics. Politics has imposed itself on me. That's a different thing. And to look at these people who are allegedly leaders wearing a collar and a lead, otherwise known as a necktie, you've got to wonder, what are the psychological implications from this? And for those of you who are ex-military, you know, perhaps part of a liberal party, subservience, I guess, works in the military thing, but at what point? I actually lost my fucking train of thought there. I had a reason for that, and I've just gone derailed. Probably the wrong time, I guess. A later date, perhaps. It'll come back. It'll come back. Anyway, I've got a little thing on immigration here that I think you'll find fascinating. We'll get rid of the music because it's really pretty shit. But as you can see, going through the agents, migrants into Australia, it's very disturbing, isn't it? All these numbers piling in from all over the friggin' world into our little continent over here. And, you know, all those people who keep going on about welcome to countries and respect for the Indigenous people. How respectful are you being to the Indigenous community when you are flooding them with 1 million people, which is more than their entire population every year? How is that helping Indigenous people? 12 million from 2008. That's the big key right here at the end. 12.5 million to round it down fairly. 12.6. That's what they've done. 12.6 non-citizen arrivals since 2008. That is a big chunk of extra people, given that there is not even 1 million Aboriginal people in this country. You want to tell me about caring about Aboriginal people? You've replaced their population, we'll say 13 times over, maybe 14. I'm not going to sit there and crunch the numbers, you know, just, you know, somewhere between, you know, 13 and 14 times you've increased, you've overflown the population. How is that fair to the Indigenous community? Did anybody ask them? Hey, Aboriginal people, I know there's only 900,000 or give or take of you mob left. Do you mind if we import another 12.6 million? Is that okay with you? Like, I mean, you're obviously really happy about having all the white people come in. We can see them all, you know, telling us to go. Oh, not all, some telling us to go home. Some are saying, guys, come on, it's time to work together. They're doing to you what they did to us. And those are the ones I want to listen to. They're doing to you what they did to us. Here we are now on the same side of the fence of the Indigenous population of this country. The secondary population of this country, being the colonials, is now in the same position as the indigenous people. If we don't have a real call to arms between the colonial, respectful Australian people who are happy to work with the indigenous, as well as they're, respectful and kindly working with us, if we build that bridge, perhaps we can prevent this shit from getting worse and start a re-migration process. And as I've said, in the past, I'm not naming names, but some indigenous elders have, said to me, them people got to go home. Those are the words of the true landlords of this land. Whether you agree with that position or not, I'm happy to work with them because they understand this land very well. I'm depressed. Is that allowed these days? It's a good question, Tim. I believe it's actually encouraged. That's my perception of it all. I think they encourage depression because while you're in that sad, I'm hiding in the corner, repressed and feeling weak. That's where they want you. They keep railroading right over the top of you and come give you a good kick every now and then. Make sure you stay where you belong. So I wouldn't say they're not just beyond allowed. They actually are encouraging it. So this is an interesting one on that note. Jax the Ripper. Now, you're going to take one look at this guy and go, holy shit. This is exactly the kind of thing we probably shouldn't be talking about. Just one look at this guy could be enough to go, oh my God, white supremacy. But listen to what he has to say.
Talking about the fact that the white population is going down and that white people are set to become a minority in the near future, and essentially that white people or people of European descent will go extinct. I wish we could bet on this because I'm going to tell you right now that is never going to happen. I would put the house on it. This would be like investing in Bitcoin in 2009. I'm sorry to burst someone's bubble if they don't like white people, but us going extinct is 100% never going to happen. And you can look through history and see this over and over and over and over. I'll break it down for you. Basically what it is something called white dormancy. What it is when everything's good, white people are docile, they're happy, they want everybody to come in, check out their stuff, they're very selfless. Then when it reaches a certain boiling point, they freak the fuck out and snap and start taking over everything until they become sufficiently exhausted. And then they just settle down with the civilization and the things that they've conquered. And then they just go dormant, like nothing even happened. Like, oh, it's good, everything's fine. This can be seen with the Vikings, this can be seen with the Napoleonic War, this can be seen with the British Empire, this can be seen with the Roman Empire, this can be seen with 1940s Germany, this can be seen with the 100 Years' War, this can be seen with the Crusades. It just keeps happening. And every culture has their own conquest-oriented ethic. But when you look at history, white people just seem to do it to a very extreme extent. We're just a very martial people. This is something that just happens over and over and over and over and over and over again. So some people are like, are you worried about this? How do you feel about it? Or should we be worried? And as someone who knows like the bare minimum about history, no. Literally fucking not at all. Well, yeah, it's different because technology now and they can da-da-da. Listen, no, it's never going to happen. So if you're banking on that, you either know nothing about history, have a room temperature IQ, or you just hate white people and you're wishful thinking. Because again, this literally happens nonstop, like a loop through history. And there's not one single thing that suggests it'll ever be any different. Because when that pressurized cooking actually pops, there's no negotiating, there's no slurs, there's no guilt, there's literally nothing you can do at that point. And I personally feel like in this past years, if we learned anything, white people are 100% pressurized and cooking as we speak right now. So again, am I worried about it? Absolutely not, and neither should you be.
Pressurized in cooking, eh? I guess this guy must be a cooker. Is he a barbecue? Is he a stovetop? Oh, I don't know. He's clearly a cooker. Yeah. What the fuck? A total population of the Commonwealth of Australia was counted at 23 in 2016. Yeah, 23 million. Yeah, and I think we're up 28. We're rapidly approaching 30 million, and it's fucking disgraceful. I believe at the time of my birth, it was about 14 million people in this country. It is well over double now. That's disgraceful. And it's not from us breeding like rabbits. That's for sure. We're not the ones overpopulating the fucking world. No, we need mass migration because we listen to all that leftist bullshit about overpopulating the world. You see how the PSYOP has been going for so fucking long? Five finger death punch. Totally agree with you, T2. Yeah, he does have that kind of look to him, tattooed to the fuck house and ready to go to war. At the end of the day, I believe that could actually be what these people are anticipating. You got to think about, we're all just pawns and players and games and little bits on a chessboard to these elitist scum who, they don't have, national identities. They've probably been kicked out of every other fucking country. These people obviously are thinking on a big globalist scale, and I don't see a problem with thinking about a harmonious world working together, but I do have a problem with a dictatorship over the globe. That is a problem. So anyway, that was Jax the Ripper, by the way, if anybody, JAX the Ripper, if anybody wants to check out his stuff. Interesting point of view. Love the fact that he goes, bare minimum of knowledge of history, but a bit of pride obviously there. So on the immigration point of view, here's JD Vance going for his successive run
about this immigration issue. Look,
and by successive, I'm not saying it's going to be successful. It means he intends to succeed on from Donald Trump. I just thought to clarify that point. But Trump and the Republicans were American first. They don't seem to be very American first at the moment. Actually, I'll bring something in on that in a moment, but let's have a listen to him for the meantime.
But to answer your question about this immigration issue, look, one of the problems that we have in all of Western societies is that we have a lot of people who've decided, Wall Street bankers, corporate lobbyists, and government officials, that what the United States and what the West need is more and more cheap labor. What we believe in this White House is what we need more and more of is high wages for American workers and investing in our own people. What you see all over the West, and it's kind of crazy, is this idea that the way to generate prosperity is to bring in millions and millions of unvetted people and drop them into your neighborhoods, and we simply reject that idea. So to everybody in the
I like that. We simply reject your idea. I'm inclined to agree to reject that idea too.
UK who rejects that idea, I'd encourage them to just keep on going. It's okay to want to defend your culture. It's okay to want to live in a safe neighborhood. It's okay to want your job to go to yourself and your neighbors and not to a stranger who you don't even know.
Now, isn't that a lovely thing? Like, don't you feel like a sense of relief? Oh, thanks. It's okay. It's okay to be me. It's okay to want to protect who I am, to have an identity of your own, to not be self-loathing lunatic leftist. I mean, it's a very simple thing. The question is, how much do they actually believe it, and how much will they actually implement it?
It is reasonable for the people in Western societies to want to control who comes into their country and who doesn't. A lot of people, frankly, a lot of people in the media have tried to persuade all of those people that it's somehow racist to want to protect your borders, even though very often the very people who are most affected by low-wage immigration are lower-income Black and Hispanic Americans right here in the United States of America, and I guarantee that's true in the UK. So we believe in making America great again. You can't do that unless you protect your borders. I'd encourage our friends in the UK to follow the same path.
And, again, we can break it down to the home sort of analogy of, well, here's my house, I've invited some guests along, some friends, may not have known them very long, but hey, look, they seem pretty friendly. I'm a friendly person. I'm showing my friendship. Hey, come to my house. We're going to have a party, a barbecue, a couple of beers, come around, oh, what should we bring? Oh, look, we've got most things covered, but look, if you want to bring a little something up to you, all of a sudden these dirty, smelly people turn up, nothing in their hands. They've come to freeload. They've got their dirty boots on. They couldn't even see the "please take your shoes off" sign at the front of the fucking house. Completely disregard it, trampling mud all over the place, breaking all your stuff, smash the TV, knock the stereo over, spill the beer, drink all your piss, eat all your food. Thanks for coming, and then fucking fall asleep in the middle of your floor. Are you going to invite these fuckers back? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? It's not hard to figure out. Yet left-hearted fuckwits will make you feel bad for having that basic respect for your own shit, you know? Of course, communists don't understand the idea of having your own stuff because they're always living on somebody else's stuff. They are parasitic by nature. Oh, shit. I just brought something down that I was going to bring in. Sorry. Wrong button. These things happen. All right, so nation first here. Good old George Christensen, formerly, a dude who was sadly a part of the Liberal Party, but quickly woke up at an important time. Didn't have much respect for him while he was part of the Liberal Party, or at least not enough until towards the end. Perhaps, I guess he hadn't shown his true colours by then, but he has now, as far as I'm concerned. Nation First looks into political execution of Thomas Massey by Trump, which is very important here. The Israel lobby and America's permanent war machine. And this is interesting. Not because he was corrupt, not because he was sold out his district in Kentucky, not because he lied to voters or betrayed his principles the second he arrived in Washington. No. They got him precisely because he refused to bend the knee. And this is the problem that's emerging, and this is the far right slapback. That I was talking about. Watch, the left have pushed so far this way, the rubber band's going to snap and it's coming back the other way. And we can see the political corruption starting to happen within Trump. I don't know what they fucking bribed him with or threatened him with or whatever it is, but he's not the same Trump that everybody was supporting beforehand. Thomas Massey was targeted because he refused to abandon his constitution and anti-war principles, and that is one of the big things that got Trump in the first place, was the anti-war, and here he is blowing the fuck out of it. And, I had a conversation with some people recently, oh well, you got to do something. They were preparing to have nuclear weapons. What, like Israel? No, and Israel muscled their way in. They weren't supposed to have nuclear weapons either, but now they've got them. It might actually create a balance of power if Iran had nuclear weapons. It might fucking get Israel back in their box a little bit, perhaps. If everybody's got the same big stick, the problem is everybody's looking for a bigger stick. We've all seen that Simpsons episode, with the alien and the big stick coming in and gets a bigger stick and a bigger stick. Perhaps you're more of a Looney Tunes fan and you've seen Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd start with a little pop gun and then to a rifle and then to a cannon and then to a bigger cannon and a bigger cannon, and boom, all of a sudden you're Marvin the Martian standing on the last bit of dirt left. You got to wonder. Yes, we do need to stop the arms race, so to speak, but hey, when you've got a military industrial complex that fundamentally funds the entirety of America, how are you going to do that? Trump helped destroy one of the few genuinely independent voices left in the Republican Party. Yep, now they are all partisan. Again, the Israel lobby, AIPAC, and military industrial complex punish politicians who challenge endless foreign intervention because they need the war machine to keep moving. Otherwise they don't make money. Check out Iron Man. Trump now demands obedience over integrity. Sad, isn't it? Even from solid America First conservative representatives, Massey should leave the Republican Party and run as a true America First independent candidate. And again, party politics, as we pointed out from the old Graham Kennedy thing, previously, shows you that you become a part of a collective. You become the Borg. You have now ceased being an individual thinking for yourself. You are a part of the fucking machine. Another cog in the machine, another brick in the wall for you Pink Floyd fans. So as of this morning, Thomas Massey has lost Republican primary in Kentucky to a Trump-backed challenger after one of the most vicious and expensive political hit jobs in modern congressional history. It would seem that Trump's learned something about political hit jobs, because it's been, that's the problem when somebody is so heavily inundated with an assault, they tend to start replicating these things. He potentially has just become a victim of the abuse. He's now got victim syndrome, so he has to emulate his attackers in order to feel safe. Look, you can get into this, go and check it out a little bit more. I just wanted to bring that in, that again, the situation is getting concerning, because we don't want to see a full fucking slap back into a far right fucking scenario, because I have a feeling that maybe what they're anticipating and what they actually want, some might say that certain people with a shitload of money and a specific sense of supremacy may have funded Nazi Germany in some ways. You can go and look that up if you like. Sips. Tell you, they weren't white people. At least not as you know it. Not the kind of white people we're supposed to hate on anyway. All right, what else have we got? We are running low on time. We're getting to about that 3-hour point. So, oh, yeah. Bit of Tommy Robinson. Why not? This needed to go earlier, but we'll do it now.
Too late to get Islam out of our classrooms. It's not too late to get Islam out of that building. It is not too late to get Islam out of every single official office in this country. And more than not too late, it is absolutely vital. If we want to save this country, we have to remove Islam from every single place of authority.
Now, I think this is a bit dangerous myself. You know, at the end of the day, there's a certain nation that has expansionist concepts going on, and they seem to be bombing people into the Stone Age if they weren't already there to start with. And now we've got this movement. And you got to wonder, were these people brought in for this purpose? It's a bit sad. I mean, unfortunately, we are at a point where some of these people are coming through with rape gangs and doing horrific things and not integrating into our society almost as if it was anticipated. And the natural reaction is, get the fuck out of my house. You didn't take your shoes off at the door. You broke my fucking TV in Mysterio. You drank all my piss and you shit on the rug. Get the fuck out. You know, it's almost as if somebody wanted this to happen. And now they've got the reaction. They created the problem. They've created the reaction. Now, you know where the solution is going? More war. It's fucking disturbing. But if people had the intelligence to start with and say, no, we shouldn't be letting these kind of people in the first place, had preventative measures, kind of like an immigration vaccine, I suppose, from a certain point of view, we may not have gotten this problem. But we have a problem and we do need to solve it, but we need to be very careful about how we allow it to be solved. You know, it's my bit on that. I believe that's a responsible way of looking at it. But the one thing's for sure, the Islamic community needs to rein its own in. We can't have any of these fucking, you know, hate preachers, and we don't need any more of these fucking rape gangs. That's for sure. Oh, yeah, cool. Let's start with Lisa Jane here. I have to thank Guru. I was watching his podcast. He was supposed to... Sorry, guys. I did advertise on a few platforms that, you know, Guru was doing something on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. That all got changed, and he did something at 7 o'clock instead. He had a bit of a change of heart. Haven't had a chance to talk to him yet about exactly the ins and outs, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't be able to talk about it anyway. So, you know, because it's not my story, to be respectful, and anything he told me would be in confidence because I am that kind of respectful person. But anyway, I watched what he did put up at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, and I seen this and I thought, fuck, if you didn't watch it, you should now. Fucking gold.
So I am Lisa. I was born in Melbourne. I started transitioning 6 or so months ago. I started race affirming care a few months after I started transitioning. Hello, let me ask you, do you have solar panels? No, do not hang up. I am not scamming you. I am Indian. End of story.
Oh, that's gold. Utter gold. Yes, it is, you know, a satirical thing that she does. Yeah. I seen that. I was in tears. Absolute tears. It's still funny the third or fourth time. I can't remember how many times I watched it now. But yeah, Lisa Jane Spencer. You can find her on Twitter if you're interested. Not that she needs me to plug it, but fuck, respect where respect is due. That is gold. Utter gold. You know, but she actually had a moment. I went and looked at some of her other content after seeing that, and I thought, actually, this moment is really good, and it ties us back to the beginning of the podcast with this budget shit, because she actually does a pretty good job of pointing out how bad this budget is for Australia and how good it is for everybody who's un-Australian.
Comedy content, and I try and make you laugh, but today I'm just pissed. I'm pissed at the budget that's come out. So I'm going to list out where this money is going to. 124 million to the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. 207 million to combat anti-Semitism. Where
I wonder who's really in power here when you see so much money being given to a specific community straight off the cuff.
and I try and make you laugh, but today I'm just pissed. I'm pissed at the budget that's come out. So I'm going to list out where this money is going to. 124 million to the Executive Council of Australian Jewry.
Now, forgive me, but Jews are notoriously good with money. They're generally running all the fucking banks, so they pretty much control all the money. Why do we have to pay for their ideology? Just a thought.
207 million to combat anti-Semitism. 46 million.
$207 million to combat the fact that people are pointing out that they have all the money, yet they're still taking all the money. I mean, if you didn't think Albo was a big grifter, have a look at some of these people. Another 46.7 million financial support for Jewish communities. I don't know too many poor Jewish communities, but that's just me. I don't know. Please show me the one that's sleeping under the bridge.
Direct to the Jewish community. 68 million for hate speech and social media police. 793 million for closing the gap.
793 million to close a gap that they're funding to maintain, fundamentally, because let's face it, when the money dries up, you must have solved the problem. So we can't solve the problem because the money will dry up.
4 million to recruit Papua New Guineans into the Australian Defence.
Oh wow, 64 million to bring Papua New Guineas into the Australian Defence Force. Well, it's not a bad tactical move, given that the Chinese are moving in on them too. That one I could let slide.
Force. 25.3 million on the India-Australia partnership.
And look, I'm sick of the Indian thing, because those fuckers literally are coming over here, taking our money, sending it back. And I come across this years ago back in Melbourne. My son went to a kid's birthday party, and I was talking to the others, and they were all Indian, all the parents at the time. I think I was the only white parent there, because we're all a bunch of racists and we hate, foreigners and whatnot. But, I found it very disturbing how they were saying how they've come all the way over here, spent, I can't remember how many years, but it was a sizable chunk, somewhere in the vicinity of 7 or 8 years, earning shitloads of money so they can take it back to India. And they were happy to tell us that. I'm like, why don't you just kick me in the dick? You come here to steal from our country to enrich your own. Yet here we are giving it straight to the government on top of that. Fuck me. I wonder if the Aboriginals are keen on that.
68.5 million for HIV treatment for immigrants.
Wow. That's an economic fucking wonder, in itself. Hey, you know what? We need HIV treatment for immigrants. How's about if they're tested positive? The only treatment we should be giving them is testing. Right, cool, go home. Why are we dealing with their problems? Go home. The idea of immigration is we bring people that can adapt and improve our country. They're bringing in the lowest of the low. It's like scraping the bottom of a septic tank out and saying, hey, we want to bring that in. Fuck off.
10.8 million for health education for refugee and migrant women.
Again, we can save a lot of money. Don't bring them in.
7.7 million to boost refugee employment.
What about employment in general? Why do we have to spend that much money on refugee employment? Again, if you don't bring them in, we don't have to deal with it.
None of this is for the majority of Australians.
Harps, I'm with you. What where does immune deficiency actually come into nature? I've long long said that I believe it's engineered by the likes of people like Bill Gates, not specifically him, of course. There was conjured up long before him, but we know Fauci had a lot to do with it, and so did the PCR tests. That was one of the first points where Carrie Mullis realized that his work and his creation was being manipulated by Anthony Fauci to push the HIV agenda, to sell a vaccine.
And this government has been obsessed with DEI because they're trying to engineer equal outcomes by screwing the majority of Australians to lift these minority groups up.
And how is that a democracy? I was under the impression that democracy was majority rule, but they've turned it all upside down. Whatever good principles we had, upside down, turn it around, Blackboard's back at it again. And sorry, Blackboard is not Troy Thompson, no matter how much Channel 10 and the Townsville Bulletin shitty, pathetic excuse for journalism might have stated.
But the reality is life is not fair. Life and nature has hierarchies. Diversity is not a strength. The point of a nation is to have shared ancestry, shared ethnicity, shared culture, shared values, shared history. And when you import many, many different kinds of people from all different places with different backgrounds, you break up a nation. You create a lack of social cohesion. You create disunity. What a punch in the face. They've created this. Australia is being ruined by foreign influence, mass immigration, and endless virtue signalling that puts everyone except Australians first. The majority of us did not vote for this. This is not a democracy. Australians want unity, but you cannot have that if you are bringing in too many differences. You have to be an idiot to not know that. Of course, it sounds nice to hope that we can all get along together and you can drop a bunch of different people into the same place and, oh, let's hope that they all get along. No, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in nature, in the animal kingdom, anywhere. It's a lie. Wake the heck up. And I don't know about you, but I think the first step is to just stop paying taxes.
Wish we could. That's a wonderful idea. At the end of the day, we need to cut them off. And, truth. Batty, the PCR test, 100%. Thank you, T2. You bang on there. Yeah, the PCR test was the key. It's one of the things that I'll say to people who are entry-level comprehension, and like you got to feel your way through a conversation. You don't start with the most extreme thing you can. Hey, I'm Batty. By the way, did you know the world is completely fucked because of the most extreme thing I can think of? You don't start there. You just work your way through a conversation, see how people are feeling. And when somebody sort of inclines it, something wasn't quite right with that, that whole COVID thing. I will respond with something similar. Like, yeah, well, I look things up because, I don't trust anyone or anything, and least of all the mainstream media, because I worked for them. So I know that they're not trustworthy. And as soon as I heard PCR test being repeated, I looked up the PCR test. And you know what I did? I found the guy who actually invented it, went and bought his book, and I fucking read it. And it was one of the most informative things I've ever done. And it told me everything I needed to know. And everything that's transpired from there has been exacerbated by what was read in that book. So I highly recommend you get Carrie Mullis's book, Surfing with the Minefield, or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was called. You know this. I brought it up every time and I forget the title. I don't need to remember the title. I read the book. And he's totally stuffed. Yeah, it is that way. I know it's hard to see a way out, but, I believe we have it. We are working on it. And, the fact that, I was saying to and this is in, for Jan's comment there. You know, I see a lot of people saying the same thing. Guru said it Friday as well. You know, I don't see a way out of this. I do see a way out of it. I'm just not willing to fucking say what it is right now, because deep down you all know what that is, you know, and it's not going to be nice. You know, at the end of the day, the vile dictators are not going to give up their rule. They're not going to give it up. They're not going to lay down willingly. They're not going. They won't even accept that they lied. They won't accept that they are wrong. They will lie and cheat and steal, and they will keep doing it because it's what they do. There's only one way to remove them. It's rather unfortunate, but they are the ones that are bringing it upon us. You know, at the end of the day, I'm astounded it hasn't come to, you know, some kind of a civil war already. But you know, give it time. It's coming. You know, and you can see it brewing. But at the end of the day, we are peaceful people. We've always lived peacefully, you know. At the end of the day, if you know, constant requests for doing the right thing are ignored, then, you know, Mr. Tattoo's face analysis of history will come to pass yet again, over and over again, which is why I called this podcast, you know, Unknown Yet Familiar, because we've seen this before. We know how this is going to play out. We know what's going to happen. You practiced it today. Sorry, I missed that. Anyway, should probably get close to wrapping this up. I'm sensing a disturbance in the force from my wonderful comment helpers out there. We maybe look at one more, and let's have a look. What do we got here? We've done the sushi rolls. So many things to look at. Let's look at the train nutters. The train nutters, I think, is a way to maybe wind it up here. We'll have that.
And it's Jacinta Allen's fault. Hey, buddy. All right, that cheered me up a little bit. But anyway, I'm having a terrible day thanks to Jacinta Allen, because I have, for about the 10th time this month...
Can't remember the old mate's name, but I just like to point out, apparently he's a comedian. He doesn't seem like in a very cheerful, entertaining mood at this point. This thing is relevant.
Had to share a train carriage with a drug-addled lunatic, but this time the guy got on the train and he was brandishing 2 knives. This lunatic gets on the fucking train, he's got 2 knives in his hands, he's sharpening them, he's ranting and raving, he's playing music, he's off his head's on drugs. There's no cops, there are no PSOs anymore at the train station because they moved them to shopping centres for some reason, and then didn't replace those people with PSOs at the train station, despite the fact that violence at train stations is increasing at an insane rate. So I have to take it upon myself to get all of the women off the carriage, onto the next carriage, press the emergency button, tell everyone that there's a man with a knife on the train. Everyone's freaked out. Thank God there was an off-duty police officer on his way to work. Me and him have to go into the carriage with the guy with the knife to make sure that he doesn't enter the fucking carriage with all the women and children on it. And every time I take the fucking train now, I see some drug-addled lunatic, someone in desperate need of psychiatric care.
So, I mean, yeah, once you've experienced these kinds of things, and it's another reason why I left Melbourne, because I've experienced similar things, you know, on Melbourne trains. You know, you get to a point where you no longer trust the system. You don't even want to get on the train anymore because it's not a safe place. You know, I wouldn't let my kids go on public transport anymore. You know, like, it's that bad. When I was a kid, it was okay to go on the public transport. It was an exciting thing. It was something new. You know, your parents would let you go when you were fucking a teenager. Here you go. Here's your 40 cents. Go fucking catch a train at Box Hill or whatever. Wouldn't fucking do that now. God, no. Under no circumstances would I wouldn't even let a girlfriend go on public transport by themselves during the fucking day, let alone at night. This guy has actually suffered a serious trauma, and you can see it straight away. He's a comedian. He's not telling any jokes anymore.
Or getting knocked out, and it's getting worse. And PSOs are nowhere to be seen. Right now, there's no PSOs here. So I got to go home now. And if shit kicks off, I'm on my own. We had to prevent this guy from getting from one carriage that was empty into the one with all the women and children. And we had to sit there for over 20 minutes waiting for police officers to show up because there's no PSOs. So we're sitting at a station that should have PSOs, sitting on our hands and praying to God that this guy doesn't start stabbing. And it was very scary, and it's fucking ruined my day, and it's made me very angry. And people could have died, man. So Jacinta Allen If you're watching this, the situation on the ground is fucked. We need PSOs at every single train station. Put them back.
I think he's being a bit generous because I think we need to actually address the cause of this, and that is shitloads of immigration. It's a lack of social cohesion. It's the destruction of Australian values. We didn't have these problems in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s. It was starting to manifest. You could see because of mass immigration, mass destruction of social cohesion. But the story thickens.
Terrible day, and it is still Jacinta Allen's fault. Remember the knife-wielding maniac that got on my train the other day? Well, it made the news. Check this out. Comedian helps passengers escape man with knives on Melbourne train ordeal.
Now, the important thing that I noticed straight away is that the mainstream media are now watching people like him, people like myself. I know they watch me. Hello, mainstream media. No, Troy Thompson is still not blackboard fuckwits, because they are so starved. They are so shit at their jobs. They have no idea how to find things, and they are hard pressed for times to produce utter garbage, so they troll the internet. It's easier than actually doing real journalism. So they've obviously trolled old mate's fucking posts, or they've trolled the internet and found this and gone and done a little bit of homework, which old mate probably gives them more props than they deserve for.
Shout out Heath. He did some real research. He reached out to the police and said, what happened with this guy? Did he get arrested? Did he get fined? What happened? Here's what the police said. They said he was spoken to by police. No threats were made. No arrest, no fine, no consequence. They also lied. They said he was spotted cleaning 2 cheese knives. No, he wasn't.
Cleaning 2 cheese knives. So here we have a massive systemic problem with the police, which is what is exacerbating, fueling the fire of these problems, perhaps, where the coppers are going to say he was spotted cleaning 2 cheese knives, which is an outright fucking lie, according to old mate. But at the end of the day, what's to stop people running around sharpening knives in a train, fucked up off your guts, when there's no consequences, eh?
They also lied. They said he was spotted cleaning 2 cheese knives. No, he wasn't. He was not cleaning them. They didn't look like cheese knives to me. So there we have it. That's an official confirmation by the government of my state that if you carry a knife onto a train, evacuate an entire carriage, terrify all the women and children, and make everybody 30, 40 minutes late to whatever they were doing that day, whether it be work, a funeral, a doctor's appointment, or anything else, you will experience 0 consequences, and your incredibly scary incident won't be recorded in the crime stats, and you'll just be let go until you inevitably harm someone else in a serious manner.
Now, I think he's hit a real nail on the head there. It doesn't go to the crime stats because the crime has been brushed off. Very important for a Labor tyrannical government who is flooding us with migrants, the likes of which we've never seen, because we don't want those crime stats to go along with that immigration status. Now, do we? We need to fudge the figures. So in order to fudge the figures, we need to let the criminals go. It really is that simple.
That's what we've learned today, is that police are not going to do anything until the stabbing begins. There's no prevention, there's no fines, there's no consequences at all. So thank you very much, Jacinta Allen, for being so tough on crime. I really appreciate it. I would really like to talk to you, Jacinta. I have some suggestions. I have some productive solutions. I have some ideas. I would love to suggest them to you. So far, I have been ignored by you and your staff, despite my video getting hundreds of thousands of views from Victorians who are saying the same thing. However, the opposition leader has reached out to me. Now, I've never voted Liberal in my entire life, but this violence in the city and on public transport, it's turning me into a single issue voter. So Jacinta, I would love to talk. Thank you.
Interesting. So he's basically just confessed to never voting Liberal. He hasn't confessed to voting any other way. One would presume that he's sort of saying, perhaps baiting even, the Labor Party into, I might have been one of your voters. I never voted Liberal. I mean, I've never voted Labor. I've never voted Liberal either. I hate them both. I figured that out when I was 16 years old before I was even able to vote. Is he a lefty? I mean, who knows? But at the end of the day, Labor, you're losing voters. You're losing even potentials. You're losing people who would hate the Liberal Party, who might go, well, if you can't vote Liberal, you've got to go Labor because there's only two parties. Everything else is a wasted vote. Oh. Well, that's not going to be this case anymore, is it? We're going to see some serious division soon because the major parties are obviously losing their way as as rapidly as they possibly can. Look, there was a lot more. There's a few things. Let's just do one more here from Pauline just to end. We'll do two more. Fuck it, because they are in succession.
Ask you about that Royal Commission and about some of One Nation's support base there as well, because there is a neo-Nazi element of your support base. How will you ensure?
Sorry, Anna, that's rubbish.
Well, there are neo-Nazis who back you. They comment on Facebook.
Anna, that's got nothing to do with me, and that's got nothing to do with One Nation.
So you won't see those fringe ideologies coming.
I love the way she's trying to ram the neo-Nazi thing in there. You know, there's obviously an annoying ringing bell in there too. I'm not sure why that's there in the video, but it I guess it's one of those things. So I can go, yep. Let's face it, this Sandy Yang, can yang off, because she's clearly trying to pin the tail on the donkey here, but this ain't no donkey.
Don't try and make out that they're part of One Nation or part of our team or anything like that. It's got nothing to do with it. So don't head down that path with me. I'm sick and tired of the media throwing this at me all the time.
I'm just saying they're supporters. I'm not saying they're in your party or part of your party machine.
Yes, you are, bitch. And before One Nation came on, where were they? Who did they support? Did you follow that up? I don't know who is out there supporting me. I've got people from all different cultural backgrounds, walks of life, ages, you name it, supporting One Nation because they support my policies, what I stand for. So don't have a go at me as if it's going to belittle or denigrate my party, what I stand for, because I may have this fringe out there support us. It's got nothing to do with their fringe. They're out here. They're going to support someone.
Well, that's it. If neo-Nazis suddenly supported the Greens, do you think the media would jump up and down about that? Hi, I'm a neo-Nazi. I'd like to save the planet. I support the Greens. I wonder. That could make a very interesting comedy skit, wouldn't it? But anyway, let's continue on to, obviously we've seen a horrific media hit. And Pauline's, been taking those hits for so fucking long that she ducked and weaved that one quite well and threw a few of her own back and made that dumb bitch look as dumb as she really is.
Government, of course we can. That's up to the people. It's the people's choice whether we can or not. Could I be Prime Minister? Only if I were to move from the upper house, the Senate, to the lower house. That decision I am contemplating, but I haven't made that decision. I will do that closer to the next election. And, what we talk about working with the coalition government, Rowan, I've spent on your program and on many interviews that I've done. All I want to do is work with the coalition. We're on the same page with many issues apart from getting out of the Paris Agreement, which that's going to be a must as far as I'm concerned.
Good.
But besides all that, what we need to really do is to work together to oust this Labor, Greens, Teal government. They are destroying this country. And I'm fearful if they get another term in there. So the fact is, but when I say this and I say, look, I don't want ministerial positions. If you get the numbers, I'll give you supply and I'll give you confidence. Will you give me the same if it's the other way around? Silence. The deafening, silence is deafening. But apart from that also, when I have Tim Wilson, who's only got his seat because of One Nation's preferences, he preferenced this last. Then I've got, Jane Hume saying, oh, that's hypothetical. Dave Sharma, no. Kovacek, no. This is the moderates. These are the people who don't want to work with us. Where is their head out? Do they really want to be government and oust the Labor government? These are all the Labor lights, all Greens. They're in the wrong party. That's what I'm working with. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, I'm going for government because I'm not going to keep propping them up. If I have to work with them, I will. But I'm sick of their attitude. And I'm going to prove to the Australian people we have the policies, we have the determination, we can do it. And if it happens that I need to be Prime Minister of this country, Rowan, I'm going to go for it.
Pauline Hanson, you couldn't have put it clearer and better, and there will be many people cheering at their TV screens right now.
Well, possibly. personally, I'd have been more impressed about 30 fucking years ago, because that's when we really needed Pauline Hanson. Unfortunately, in all these years, she still hasn't managed to sort of get that public speaking thing down quite pat, which is it's unfortunate, you know. It's because you can see the passion in the woman, and I think in a lot of ways she's just been attacked and abused, and you know, this is, you know, as she herself has said, you know, and in my presence too, that politics is a very dirty game, you know, and that dirty game has had I believe, a psychological effect on her, which is possibly not a positive one. She's had to learn how to duck and weave and fight on the go. It's a difference between, you know, training fairly and evenly with people, and then, you know, versus being continuously beaten into a corner and having to fight your way out every fucking day. And, you know, regardless of where Pauline's at mentally, and, you know, where the political party is at, you know, which is where I find it a little bit more disturbing, is the machine behind her is what concerns me. You know, party politics is a problem here, but you know, she has done a great deal for Australia, and I hope that somebody can sort of move in and take that place very well. I know a lot of people have gone and said, hey, maybe you should do this, but shit, have a look at this podcast. The amount of shit they just pull out of this and go, have a look at him. Oh, Bill's swilling, fucking swearing, fucking, you know, like, I don't do myself any favors, but that's the brutal honesty. That's the brutal truth that's coming out. You know, how many Australians are just like me, having a beer, had enough, can see through it, and just you're fucking chucking a wobbly, fuck you, and putting another TV out of commission because the beer bottle just went through it because I had to deal with too much of this shit. You know, I mean, to me, it's a wonderful sales pitch, but the mainstream media will just turn it into a meal. First things first, we've got to kill the fucking mainstream media. Then I'll step up. Sips. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I see there's 2-starred comments there. We've got America, 7:37 a.m. Sorry, it took me so long to get back to that. Thanks, man. Wow. Admire your dedication for coming in and saying g'day. Obviously, Harps has had something to do with that. So big thanks to Harps as well. It's good to see us getting an international audience. You know, like I've said, you know, so many times, we don't need TAL here in Townsville. We don't even need the Townsville City Council. I'm more than happy to, you know, facilitate the opening of Townsville to the world, you know, and showing them what real fucking Australia looks like, you fucking soft cock wankers. So anyway, Martin Taylor, when will the system finally bust? If they don't see it now, they never will. I'm pretty confident they're going to see the system bust when the damn walls collapse and it's running through their house. It might be a little bit late by then, but that's also something I learned from various other books. But at the end of the day, we've put in a huge innings. Thank you, all you wonderful people, for watching. T2 and Harps, Andrew. What do we see? Jason's there. Oh, Jason's always there. Great bloke. Belinda and Butterfly Heart, Jan Murphy, all you wonderful people. Brad Cuz, how are you, brother? You know, all you amazing people. Adrian, of course, mate. Thank you heaps for you know, helping out with wonderful coasters. I still use the coaster. It's right here. Look at that, freshly wet. You know, unfortunately, nobody was facilitating the purchasing of these things, which is a bit sad. You know, look, if you guys want some North Queensland Freedom Network merchandise, do let me know. I'm sure Adrian would be happy to help us facilitate that. You're helping me. You're helping a fellow fucking viewer. You're helping Australia, you know. So reach out. NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com for all your questions. Check the links in the description if you want to help out that way. Oh, excuse me. Look, what can I say? Love you all. There won't be a podcast Sunday. Sorry, I've got a big weekend ahead of me, mostly filled with pain, no doubt, because it usually is. Every day is a struggle with this horrific back injury that I have. So, look, thank you all for watching. It's been wonderful. I'll see you next week. Until next time, sips to you all. Live long and prosper.